Live. Welcome back to the 2017 Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships. I'm Jake Shuknik, joined today by Laura Seed. How are you doing, Laura?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. It's been a fun week to watch. I'm not playing, I'm just watching.
This is round number 7 that we're starting this morning, and feature match this morning is women's pairs. Manitoba team of Shirley and Clarice against Nova Scotia, Lena Cameron and Patty Granville. Current standings are the Nova Scotia A team is in first place with a record of 5-1, and there's a three-way tie for second between Alberta A, Ontario A, and this Manitoba team. So this is a pretty big game here. Nova Scotia can really solidify their position in first with a win, or Manitoba can potentially take over the top seed.
Yeah, Shirley and Clarice certainly are not new to this game, and neither is Lena. So I think they're going to be very much competing and trying really hard to win this game one way or the other for either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They know how important the Thursday games are.
Yeah, today is typically known as moving day.
Actually, that's Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday. Yeah, that's what they say.
From
But there's still lots of game left on
Mhm.
Thursday to decide the gold medal matches and stuff, the standings, the final standings for sure.
The reason I was thinking today was moving day, just looking at the standings yesterday, it was still such a cluster. Looking at the men's triples when we were streaming, the entire pool was either 3-2 or 2-3.
Yeah, it's. I hear that it's there's not a lot of blowaways. That's for sure. Very good competition here this year.
Mm-hmm. As always, if you have any questions or comments, reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter, at BCB Bowls on Twitter and at BCB Official on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And since this is pairs, it'll be back up to 18 ends. The games we streamed yesterday were triples, which are only 16.
Yeah, that confuses everybody at the beginning of the week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why it used to be 15 for the triples. I guess it's the number of bowls you end up playing. So I'm not sure why they moved it to 16, other than the fact that you finish at the same end you started.
Mm-hmm.
Must be a reason. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason.
I was always kind of confused why triples didn't play 18 ends too, because I know that there's one extra bowl, but since the vice doesn't tend to stand down at the head with the skip anyway, I feel like triples goes by just as fast as fours does.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah,
That was a little.
that's a whoops.
Yeah. Must have fallen out of her hand, or.
Mm-hmm.
You get those in a game sometimes.
Well, if you're going to do it, make sure it's in the first end. That's a good time to do it. John Siteman tuning in for another great broadcast and to cheer on Team Nova Scotia. Nice to have you with us bright and early there, John. Well, actually, I guess it's probably 1 p.m. in Nova Scotia right now, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like the way Clarice starts this game with the mat way up.
Mm-hmm.
Shows that they've got ideas of what length they want to play and where they want to play it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good start. I don't think I've seen that from any other team here this week to bring the mat way up on the very first end. I didn't quite pay enough attention during trial ends to see if they did that during trial ends or if this is just a we know what we're going to do without practicing it first.
Yeah, trial ends, you practice long, you practice short. Doesn't matter where the jack is. You just want to learn the greens. You want to throw some narrow bowls. You want to throw some wide bowls. Just you don't need to concern yourself too much about finding the center just yet. You've got lots of ends to find the center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the more you know, and it's a bit of an end green, not too far in. So they tend to be sometimes a little bit tricky. So you want to know how far out you can go on the ditch side, see what comes in.
If it plays like it has earlier on in the week, then the ditch hand side tends to hang out quite a bit, and as the day wears on and the greens get faster, the more it hangs.
Yeah.
So that non-ditch side that Shirley's playing right now tends to be the more reliable hand.
Yeah.
But we'll see if anything's changed from the first half of the week till now.
And with 18 ends, things change quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
your first ends can be trial and still figuring out what the lay of the land is.
And also bringing the mat up can change the line that you're needing to take as well. You might be avoiding some funky patches.
And I was also taught to, you know, stay away from the medium lengths.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to push the other teams, do the short or do the long. And that tends to work out sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Sometimes.
Nothing is for sure in this game. Nice shot. Oh, almost trailed it.
Just through. Any early predictions for this game?
Oh my goodness. Nope.
Yeah, I think this could be a pretty tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to the last end or two.
Yeah. Well, one never knows, but they both need to win it, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll be working real hard.
Definitely a must-win for both teams. Really tricky to see with the glare here, but if you can see, then Manitoba has the yellow decals and Nova Scotia has the blue decals, so if you have it pulled up on a 60-inch TV or something like that, you might actually be able to see.
You get to flip around with your camera here, eh?
Yeah, a little bit. Get to have a little bit of fun. Shirley's been very close with all of her bowls here, just looking to grab the jack on her way through for a trail, but she's coming up short.
Doesn't look like it's too bad. It's in the way. Does she? I don't know if she has the back bowls. If Shirley has the back bowls, so Lena will have to be a little careful with what she throws here. She can't go too heavy. She might be able to come inside to the shot bowl, take it out.
Yeah, that's definitely the hand she's playing. In the area.
There you go.
That's a pretty good bowl there.
Very nice. Oh, just sliced through a little too much. That was a beauty shot, though. Pretty good for the first end.
Yeah, can't complain with that too much.
Yeah, pretty tight
And that
bowling
was
there.
2 for Nova Scotia, I believe. Yeah. Just realizing this now, the scoreboard, I've got Nova Scotia A, but they only have one pairs team, so there's really no need for that A, so I'm going to get rid of that. It's a little more accurate, Manitoba versus Nova Scotia. The only teams that have B teams in the pairs are British Columbia and Ontario. But there are B teams in triples and fours. Nova Scotia sent another men's and women's team in triples, and Alberta sent another men's and women's team in fours. And of course Ontario has a second entry for everything, as does BC this year. So since Nova Scotia got the mat there, they still brought it up a little bit, not much, just maybe a pace past the tee.
They'll probably want to do something different than what Shirley's doing. So.
Mm-hmm.
Although they scored the 2.
That's right, it clearly worked for them. And I think they were used to the short end there, with Patty's first being well past the jack.
Well, still a pretty good start. Back bowls are always good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't complain too much with back bowls.
And here comes Clarice.
Oh, that's
She's a veteran at this game. Her and her daughter have played this for many, many years. At all levels as well as international.
Mm-hmm.
And Shirley's on the national team right now.
That's right. That's right.
I think she's a great asset to the team. She's very calm and cool and collected person. Very nice.
Oh, that's a good answer there from Patty.
Yep. Nice ball.
Yeah, I finally had a chance to actually talk to Shirley last year at the North American Challenge. I've never actually really talked to her. Like, I've seen her and met her here and there, but never really actually had a chance to sit down and chat with her. And very, I wouldn't say quiet, but very collected,
Yeah.
I guess.
Very smart. Very easy going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she stopped playing for a little while. I think she's had some children and she was busy with the family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then she was ready to come back. And doing well.
I like how Clarice didn't opt to switch hands there. She just kept working on the non-ditch side, as I'm wondering if she found out early on that is the more reliable hand to play. So regardless of
whether there's a bowl in the way.
Yeah, she just kept playing that hand anyway, which I think is a smart move. It was already shot anyway before she hit it up with her second bowl.
Well, now it's better now. She's got tons of options here, a little bit extra weight.
Mm-hmm.
She's got like 3 or 4 different things that can happen. Just no need to be short. She's not far. Does it turn?
Definitely not coming up short here. That's
one of the options.
Glad to see she's building the head.
Yeah. It's already a good head.
Yeah, yeah. I think Patty's pretty happy with this head too. I think she has slightly better position with her first bowl being well through with a back bowl. That's looking really good right about now. I think that's coming up well short.
Probably a little bit afraid to come into the head.
Mm-hmm. Don't want to damage it or give it away.
Yeah, I don't know how much experience Patty has. I don't know her very well. I don't know her.
Yeah, I can't say I know her either. I had the pleasure of working a little bit with Lena as she was co-chair for the juniors this year. So when I was out in Nova Scotia, I got to work with her for 8 days.
Just a little too wide. Beautiful weight.
Well, she got her bowl into a slightly better position there. I really like where that ended up.
Yeah. But too bad this game might be just one-sided, though.
Mm-hmm. It makes it really difficult to play when you're on a one-handed rink. Not that the other hand is totally unplayable, but it's definitely not as nice of a draw as the non-ditch side.
Just one-sided rinks just take away a bit of an element of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You end up just playing the same side and hope for the best.
I'm curious which team will figure it out first, though, as what we've seen earlier in the week, it normally takes most teams at least half the game to figure it out, and in the case of, I think it was the pairs game that we watched earlier in the week, they kept trying to play it the whole week, or the whole game.
Nice shot, Lena.
Great shot there from Lena, but...
Alright, that makes it a little bit more difficult for Shirley.
I think Clarice is calling for a little bit of position, trying to draw around, maybe work on hers. I'm not sure what type of bowl Shirley's using, but that's a big task to try to draw around all that. I don't know if it'll come back enough.
She wants something at the back to give her something to work with, because right now she has no position. That's not bad. Might be second shot.
I think that that could be 2 for Manitoba there right now. Now, I know Shirley can definitely throw weight, but I don't know if Lena likes to throw much weight.
Yeah, I've seen her do that.
Well, that got a pretty good result.
Yep.
Wonder if that's what she was aiming for.
We'll never know.
Well, here's a little bit of a fact check about Patty. She's been bowling for the past few years out of Truro in Nova Scotia, and now she's bowling out of the Wanderers Club. Generally bowled at a high level of mixed pairs with her husband Jim, and won the provincial title in women's pairs with Lena this past year. So I guess mixed pairs has been her forte prior to being here now. Thanks, John.
Probably Shirley's thinking of throw some weight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, throw some weight. At least get the jack out in the open.
Yeah. Gotta change something.
Have they got? They've got second and third, right?
Yeah, I think so. So that
So,
allows her to be a little more risky.
okay, still playing that side. That's kind of half in between weights there. Not sure what she wanted to do.
That's going to be really tricky for Shirley. It's also difficult for Nova Scotia here. What are you going to do with Alina's bull here if you're getting to the mat?
Can't get second shot.
No, that's especially on this ditch hand. That's almost impossible to draw around. So I think I might just be looking to get some position.
Ideally, you'd like to have position on the ditch side of here.
Mm-hmm.
Something at the back in case she hits it, because that's where the jack's going, towards the ditch side, but you're not doing that.
Sticking with her forehand. This could be dangerous.
All right.
Just
so
about chipped it over.
Actually, that's a really good shot, because if the jack does chip out, she might be shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Not bad.
Apparently, I can tell you who won the Nova Scotia Provincial Fours this year. That'll be going to the majors next year. It's Lena, Anne-Marie Seitman, and Kathy McKetton. Apologies if I butchered that last name. So Patty's typically been a mixed pairs advocate. This year playing pairs, and then next year she'll be playing fours. Getting a whole lot of different experience that way.
Yeah, a couple of provinces do that, right? Play their provincials the year before.
Year before? Mm-hmm.
Nova Scotia for sure. I don't know who else does that. Does Saskatchewan do that?
I don't think Saskatchewan does, but I think New Brunswick does.
Eastern guys?
Yeah, the eastern provinces tend to.
Yeah, but things change so much in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell.
Yeah. Oh, nice shot.
Unfortunate. Well, got the flop back, maybe.
That's a great shot. She couldn't afford to hit the jack too hard because Lena's back bull was there.
Mm-hmm.
And early ends, you're not looking to do anything too wild and crazy anyway. Just keep it within 1 or 2. That also falls into the strategy. 18 ends is a long way.
It is a long game. A lot can happen.
Yeah, so you don't want it to get too out. The other team to be too far out in front of you. So you tend to choose your shot selections to sometimes give up one if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. It's quite the collection of Nova Scotia back bowls there piling up.
Does Lena have another bowl? No. Yes, no.
Yeah, if this is the last bowl here, I'm not sure if I'm really going to be too aggressively into that. There's a lot of potential for things to go wrong.
Maybe she wants to put it where Clarice is standing, because then that takes out the kickback of the jack to Lena's 4 bowls.
Sticking with the reliable hand. Yeah, that's the last bowl at the end, so she's staying well away from that. Just
it was the last bowl.
Letting things be.
Yeah.
That's one for Manitoba. Get them on the board. Yeah, so mostly the Atlantic provinces play a year in advance for the Nationals, simply based on the fact that it helps when you don't get as much funding, and also helps when trying to get time off. You can plan a year in advance, but Nova Scotia plays their singles, senior triples, and juniors the same year of the actual event, though. So they don't do it all the year before, just some, I guess.
Yeah, and do they do it later in the season as well? Maybe the weather
Mhm.
plays a factor in that. They can't start as early as we can in Ontario or even here in BC. I'm sure they start the season pretty early.
Yeah, that's right.
Weather's got something to do with it.
I do kind of like that from that aspect, though, that you can plan a year out if you're going to be going or not, and it also allows you to really just focus on practice the year of.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But as you said, a lot can happen, though. You might end up moving, or you might, something might come up, and you suddenly can't make it anymore, and then your whole team is shaken up.
Yeah, it happened. Okay, I think it might be New Brunswick. Something like that happened. They had to bring in a substitute. Can't remember who it is exactly, but Clarice brought the mat up again.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's their game plan, and she locked one in there pretty close. But Patty's looking to... Ooh. That was ditch weight. I wonder if she was trying to put the jack in the ditch for the first bowl, but locked it onto Clarissa's.
Well, that always works well. That happened watching Ontario A, the Stefan boys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was a close game, and
last end, first bowl.
Yeah, right. What's his name? Rob puts it right in the ditch, right on top of it.
That is hands down the most frustrating way to lose a game.
Yeah, because you have no opportunity to score more than to score.
Nothing you can do.
Oh, so she's playing a ditch hand.
And in the ditch.
Just
I've heard some comments from some of the players that since the greens here are green and brown speckled, when your bowls go over a brown patch, they tend to pick up pace, and then when they get back to green, they slow down. So it's really tricky depending where the jack is on what kind of weight you need to throw, just because it might be on a green patch or a brown patch.
yeah.
But I'm told they haven't had rain here for something like 50 plus days in a row.
Yes. Like it's it surprises me in Victoria or Vancouver. I guess is Victoria that different from Vancouver? I just expected lots and lots of rain, but
Me too. Me too.
nothing at all.
I was actually really worried coming out here about streaming because all this equipment, we can't get it wet, and being out here on the west coast, I thought for sure it would just be raining every other day. But only had to take it down once because of a few sprinkles, which realistically we could have just waited. It blew over within 3 minutes. So Clarissa's line 1 there right now. Coming up well short there. Might take away the drive if Lena was ever looking at that. Apparently the video's not working, but the audio is sounding fine. Again, I think we're struggling with internet connection here. I know we had that issue for the first few days, as Wi-Fi out here is just dreadfully slow. Unfortunately, Rogers has said there's nothing we can do about that, which makes it really frustrating for us as we're trying to stream live to you. Shirley and Clarissa are having a little chat midway up the green there, and I think they were talking about lines in the green, if I can read Shirley's hand signals right. He was having a big swoop on one hand and then straight up the other, so I think they've figured out that the ditch side is pretty straight and the non-ditch side has a bit of a draw to it.
Well, it's good to see them play the ditch side. At least it's not going to be a one-handed green completely.
Yeah, not completely. It's just a little more tricky. needed another 2 to 3 feet on that. But that's going to be very tricky for Lena to come in. She's playing the ditch hand here now. Which I guess if she can sneak inside.
Oh.
Just missed the jack. She was definitely looking to get the bull or jack on that.
Are they sitting at the back as well? Can't tell from here.
I see one just above the scoreboard there in one Nova Scotia.
Just what's at the back. Oops.
And just too much.
And I've seen the it's a little tricky to draw a ditch board here.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think most of the greens are sloping down at the end, so a little tough.
That was a Manitoba bull, I believe. Right through the head. Chipped the jack a little bit, but that might make it a bit juicier of a target now. Yeah, when I was talking to Davey, he said he wants to keep them around 12, 13 second mark, because if they get 14, 15, which they can definitely get them up to that pace, but then the greens start to get really squirrely and you start to lose bulls even more so towards the ditch. They start to really
makes sense.
Run off, so keeping them at a bit slower of a pace just so that way they're more playable, and you still can draw the ditch on most rinks, just not as easily.
Nice ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we might be waiting until the 9th or 10th end before we can actually see the screen here.
Yeah. Miss hanging tough here. She's gonna.
Oh, she's definitely throwing some weight, and she doesn't like that. That was a very entertaining run up, skip, turn around. Don't like that.
She's gotta be careful and hurt herself. She must be trying to kill it, then it must be. Because I don't think she has the back bowl, does she?
Well, they did, but I don't think she does anymore. She also has to be careful there, as I only see one Nova Scotia bull in the head. If that bull goes, it looks like it could be 4 Manitoba, maybe 5.
What are they sitting here now? 1 or 2? 2?
Yeah, 1 or 2. And I just heard Shirley say she's not going to drive it, so might just be looking for a bit of a trail, maybe. No, maybe not quite.
Stay on.
Just a little too high to grab the jack through. Lena's coming down to talk with Patty about what they want to do, as clearly her drive has just been missing a little bit here early on.
Well, like you say, if she only has one bull in the head, she just has to be patient and just. Can she trail it off? Should have to come to ditch side to.
I think the flipper down there got confused. She has it as 3-0 Nova Scotia, but I'm positive that Clarice is the one who brought the mat up there, so I know that Manitoba has actually scored. So, so I'm assuming that our scoreboard is right here with 2-1 Nova Scotia, and it's not actually 3-0. Well, she's trying. That's a pretty good effort. That's probably second shot.
Yeah, that was probably an example of just being patient, and it's not setting up for a good end to score even. So
that should tie things up at 2, although our flipper is saying otherwise at the other end down there.
And they haven't noticed it yet.
No, nobody said anything. But when you're a player, you often don't tend to look at the scoreboard, depending on who you are. I know some people just completely ignore it and don't want to know the score. Can be a bit of a distraction.
unfortunately, with 18 ends, I guess it's not that critical, but the skips should be making sure the scores are right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the skip scores that count, not what's on the scoreboard.
That is right.
Although it can cause a bit of a controversy when all three of you have different scores.
Yep, that's true.
Been there, done that. I tend to check a lot.
And you can see Clarissa's brought the mat up again.
Yep, that's their length, obviously.
And we're all tied up at 2, so it's working at least a little bit. Patty's looking to draw inside that, and she has just passed the jack by a foot or two. Big thanks to Davey Matthey and Annie Matthey and their whole crew of volunteers for organizing this event. It's no easy task to put on this event, as there's 180 athletes here, not to mention all the friends and family that have made the trip out to the island.
Yeah, I have to say, if I were to, you know, I've been here a few times as a player, and of course following David and the Ontario team through the years when I haven't been here, so when I haven't been playing. So I've been to quite a number of banquets, and I have to say that this is probably one of the best banquets I've been to. The food was quick and was hot. It was plentiful. And the entertainment was fabulous. It was one of the 3 tenors that played, and he was funny. He really played up with the lawn bowl stuff and played some fun music. So it was really a lot of fun. You don't often know what you're going to get at a banquet, but this one was by far one of the best. So it was.
I was actually quite lucky that I had the band sitting at our table, so I got to meet Ken Levine, I think his name was.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
So, yeah, really great guy. I would hope that he'll make his way back to Ottawa at some time. He said he's traveled a lot of North America, so next time he's in the area, I'll definitely get a ticket to go down and watch him perform. He's a fantastic singer.
Yeah. And they made it just so, you know, so it can appeal to the masses, not just those who are into opera or whatever. He was just really funny, and apparently all the other tenors are do the same idea, do the same thing.
Right.
So no, it was excellent. So
no easy task to be organizing this and then playing as well, as both Davey and Annie are competing.
Yeah.
Davey's team finally got their first win yesterday, as they struggled first couple days. It's not easy to clear your mind and just bowl when you know that there's been so many small fires you're putting out before and after the game.
Yeah, but they also have lots of help here. They seem.
There are tons of volunteers.
Yeah, and they've got they've got lunches that you can buy, and they're handing out appetizers and food to the players later on in the day. It's been very well run here, very well run.
While we've been babbling here, Clarissa's put together a very good 2 bowls there, just directly behind the jack. Yeah. That's a small target, but it looks like Patty found the line too and just couldn't quite get the weight down, as you can see.
Yeah, she's still.
All the bowls on the center line there.
Yeah, they're within a foot or 2.
And
still, you're not shot. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it gives Lena some options.
And Lena is now going and correcting the flipper back there, saying, hey, you got the score wrong. So we were correct. It is a tie game at 2-2.
So Shirley doesn't want to put anything too close, because you don't want any kind of wingers. Because right now there's no angles to get in there to make the shot easier for Lena.
That's right. It's going to have to be pretty much a cold draw. Yeah. Although it looks like Lena's playing some weight up the middle.
I'd be tempted to just, well.
That's an interesting attempt.
Still, I'd be tempted to what we call fatten the head.
Yes.
Make it a little wider. And just, again, be patient and set it up so that you can create yourself an angle to get in there.
And Shirley is
That's not bad.
coming up a little bit short. That might be a guard to take away the non-ditch side, but Lena isn't playing that hand anyway. Not sure what you do if you're Shirley in this situation, because you don't want to make the head any bigger. Because that's very tough, as you can see Lena flying by there, for her to get directly to the jack.
Well, I'd be playing the backhand and come to Lena's bowl there at the back on the ditch side. Just come to that bowl. I don't think that would create any angles, and it gives you another shot. Or maybe coming to the one on the other side would get her a third shot. I can't tell.
Yeah, I think I would definitely be tempted to do that. That might be what she's doing here.
Okay, well, open that up.
That might be in Lena's eye now, as she's been favoring that ditch hand side. Yeah, it forced her to switch hands, I think.
I don't think. Yeah. Oh, that's not.
Lena is very eager to throw a couple yards through the head here, as several of her bowls have been more than a draw.
She's quick on the delivery too. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't waste any time on that mat.
I was quite pleased with how quick a lot of the juniors were playing when we were in Nova Scotia. There was an under 25 match that went 21-20. The whole game was 1s and 2s, and they finished it in 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, they were flying, and they were talking the whole time and having a good time, but
They're
just
ruthless.
rolling really good bowls. And it's also a little easier in singles too, because you're not communicating with your teammates about what shot to play or what's what in the head.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to walk down.
That's true.
I'm
That's true.
walking down to go look at the head. I usually walk down after my third bowl.
Well, that's a good general rule of thumb that
Yeah.
a lot of coaches try to.
Yeah, because you
Get
don't
players to do.
realize what the angles are until you get there. It's
Mhm.
not a matter of who shot, it's the angles. Oh, see, that's the other shot. Oh, she might have gotten it.
That might be third. Definitely didn't give Lena anything. I would be tempted to just try to draw in there and get my draw weight down, see if you can draw it cold or maybe even second shot.
Because by that third bowl, that last bowl of Shirley's, in this angle, if Lena hits it, it could just jam onto the bowl.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I'd still be tempted to throw a runner, though. It just gives you practice at it. You've got to throw them. You got to find some times to throw those runners, so that you've had an idea of what to do when you really need to do it later on in the game.
Yeah, and with the mat so far up, it's
Not too hard.
easier to hit. There's not as much time for the bowl to go off course. But it's not a very wide target.
No.
No, she's definitely not short on that.
Yeah, but it's not really a runner either.
No, just through the head.
So it was one of those half shots. She didn't want to throw it too hard. She just wanted to let it draw in, and then you end up missing it.
End up with nothing.
Yeah. But it's easy for us to say that stuff.
That's right,
sitting where
that's
we
right.
are.
It's easier for us to sit back and criticize. So they're taking two of Clarissa's out. Really shows the importance of good lead bowls, as that set the tone for the entire end.
It
and,
did.
And Clarissa's two bowls stayed counting.
You're right, yeah.
It forced Lena to throw all four of her bowls through the head. I wouldn't say any of them were runners, but none of them were really a draw either.
Oh, those must be further back, because she was measuring the one on the left there.
Mm-hmm.
Our left.
Going around all of them. So So was that 3, I think? Yeah. Just 3, although gonna check the front one. That might be in. 4.
That was a sneaky 4.
It was. So
No, it's hard. The other thing that's hard about bowls is there's so many different ways you can play it, so many different shots you can play.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as obvious as it is in curling. So while we may think she should be playing a particular shot or she missed it, maybe she didn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really don't know what she was aiming for or trying to do.
Yeah.
That's true. With curling, it is generally pretty straightforward, as the jack doesn't move, or the target, I guess. It's almost kind of the same. I feel like strategies, once you've mastered them in curling, they stay the same pretty much throughout.
Yeah.
Bowls, not so much.
And if you were sitting back and doing percentages of whether you made your shot or not,
Mm-hmm.
you can easily do it in curling. But in bowls, unless you know what the player's actually trying to do, you don't know whether they've missed a shot or not. Sometimes it's obvious that you have to put in a back bowl or whatever, for sure.
Yeah.
But other times it's not obvious at all.
So sometimes the skips will keep track of stats because they know what they're trying to get, but I find it also really difficult because if you want a back bowl, you have to be very specific where you want it. Otherwise, anything past the jack is 100%, which is a pretty big target. But then, if you're throwing a drive and you miss your target but still get a good result, is that a hit or a miss?
Yeah.
And if you miss by half an inch and get something, I don't know how you would calculate that as a percent.
Yeah, so I was talking with Anna, thinking that you guys have done a great job here of streaming and getting better at this. I was asking whether you might even consider having microphones on the skips and hearing what they're trying to say or planning to do.
I would definitely love to get there if we can find some wireless mics that would work with this tech.
Yeah.
When I was talking to, I think it was Terry in Nova Scotia for the juniors, if we do continue to stream juniors or singles or anything else like that, he was suggesting getting wireless mics and putting them on the marker, because that way the marker can tell you who's shot, who's not, because they're right up in the head. I thought that would be a pretty good idea.
I guess, but for me, it's more of what are they thinking to do and what their strategy is and where do they want to put their bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But yeah, that's all those things are all good things. We talked about drones as well.
That would be entertaining if we could get drones, although I'm curious how that would affect the players, having something flying above their head the entire game.
I bet you if you're focused enough, you forget about it.
Oh, that's a great bowl there from Patty.
Yeah.
If we had the budget, I would love to get wireless cameras rather than using the ones that we have here, because having to get 150-foot cables makes it very limited on which rinks we can actually stream. So if we could eventually get wireless, then that would make things a million times easier and open a whole new door of games we could stream.
Right.
But those aren't cheap. Very peaceful here this morning. Not a whole lot of wind, not a whole lot of background noise. It's very quiet here. And that kind of surprises me because there's so much that goes on in this complex. I would have expected at some point during the week that there'd be, whether it's baseball, tennis, some sort of commotion, but nothing.
It's still early.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Early-ish, anyway.
Early-ish, yeah. It's before noon, so that's early.
So let's see here from what I can see from here.
Yeah, I can see a few of the scores on the rink beside us on 6. New Brunswick's up 7-1 over BCA in women's pairs. on the rink beside them, women's triples or fours. I think that's women's fours. It's 5-1 Manitoba over Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that Nova Scotia team with Debbie and Jackie and Tammy are doing very, very well. Might not be doing so well right now, but I think 5-1. They're in first place, I think.
Oh, let's find out if you...
Yeah, and they've had a big change there. They've had Tammy skipping, whereas in the past it's been the mom, Debbie Foster, skipping. And I think the change has been definitely a positive one.
Well, that's interesting. Looking at women's fours on the standings right now, British Columbia B's in first place, 6-0. Alberta B's in second place, 5 wins and a tie. And Nova Scotia A is in third place with 5 wins and 1 loss. So that's
still pretty close. Yeah.
That's kind of impressive that you're in third place and you've only lost 1 game.
Yes, it's a tight competition.
Indeed.
And I see the Steffens, who are the men's pairs for Ontario. And they're playing Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep. They're up 6-1.
6-1. So Saskatchewan pairs, they're not first. They've lost a few, but they're not far behind. They have potential too.
Actually, they are tied for first, actually, Saskatchewan men's pairs. They're 4-1-1, as are the Steffens. So that's
There
a
you
battle
go.
of first place right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can see on the rink beside them on deck D, rink 1, the Ontario B men's pairs is up 8-2 over Quebec. I can hear Dave Steffen over there telling his ball to hurry. I didn't hear him yelling too much in the game that we streamed him on. I don't know if he just wasn't as into it as much or things weren't quite as tight, but now that things are getting down to the end and this is the 2 first place teams battling it out, I'm sure he's really a little more engaged, I guess. It's round 7 rather than round 3.
Yes, he does. He does a lot. He talks a lot about his bowls when they're playing. Yes, it is entertaining to watch.
And that's the last bowl. No change to the head there.
Yeah, isn't that Patty's shot that stayed there the whole time?
I believe so. Yeah, they're taking out 1 Nova Scotia right away. 2 Nova Scotias right away. And looking for potentially a third or no? Clarice is getting her measure out. I know when we were streaming the women's fours match the other day, some of the players were a little intimidated to be on TV. Right before we started, they were saying, "Oh no," and didn't want to be filmed.
Yeah, I bet you once you start playing, you forget all about it. Did you still stream it?
Yeah, well, yeah, we still streamed it, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really played absolutely horrifically or anything, so I wouldn't say it really impacted either team too much from the looks of things, but...
No, you get too much into the game and you forget everything around you. And everybody's natural tendencies come out and concentrate.
And we're far enough away, or at least the cameras are, that you don't really see them. They're not directly behind the green. They're up on scaffolding off to the side, so unless you're looking sort of off the rink, you're not even really seeing them anyway. So it's now 6-4 after 5 for Manitoba.
See how long she takes it. Not very long.
No, not very long. So I guess both these teams here are favoring relatively short ends. Just differing where they put the mat.
And I've noticed with a lot of the greens here, that with their trickiness and stuff, that conversion shots are sometimes hard to make.
Mm-hmm.
So the first person to the jack often scores in some of these rinks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not all of them, but
yeah, no, that definitely tends to be the case sometimes.
good start.
Looking next door, I'm very happy to see that New Brunswick is up 8-1 over BCA. I've been watching some of their bowls. When we filmed them earlier in the week, they played against Alberta, and they really struggled the first half to get their weight down. We were speculating that they must play on heavier greens in New Brunswick because all of their bowls were just flying through the ditch, and they killed the second end 3 times in a row unintentionally. They just couldn't keep the bowls on.
Oh my goodness!
But now, looking at that head, that's a very tight head there over on rink 6. So I'm pleased to see that they've figured things out and are now starting to really come along.
Oh yeah, when you're playing 2 games a day, 18 ends, you do quickly catch on.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is sometimes you're not catching on quickly enough.
Yeah.
And you may just fall just too far behind before you pick up your game.
Yeah, that game that we streamed, they dropped a 7 the very first end, but if we could have picked up the game starting at end number 8 or so, it would have been a very, very tight game. Just the first few ends.
Well, if you're going to give up a 7, do it
Yeah.
in the first end.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That was actually the second 7-ender that we caught on film.
Just a bit demoralizing, but you just have to be patient and whittle away 1 point at a time.
Mm-hmm. So I've had quite a few questions of people asking if these tapes are being recorded, if they'll be able to play back later, and yes, I am keeping a hard copy of them, so they will eventually be available to view back later. When I'll actually have time to put those up online, I'm not sure. After this, I still need to finish organizing the senior triples, and then I'm off to Winnipeg to live stream the singles as well, so it might be a little while before these are actually up on YouTube that you can rewatch, but they will be eventually.
Well, it's good for the teams, you know. I think the teams can watch how they've played and look at and try to analyze it in a constructive manner. Visual feedback is awesome, and so if at least they could view their games, it would be good for them.
Absolutely.
I'd love to be able to do that.
And you might be able to pick up things, and you can notice when the momentum changes, and you can really learn what we should have done instead, or what we did well, or halfway through the game my delivery changed, and that's why I stopped bowling so well, or whatever. So it's definitely beneficial to be able to view a full game that you've played.
So they seem to be playing both sides of the rink, so that's good. Nice bowl, a good spot.
Yeah. Came back a foot or two. Big thanks to our sponsors and partners, the Government of Canada through Sport Canada, the Coaching Association of Canada, Kukri, our official clothing supplier, and lawnbowlingmanager.com. Do you know what lawnbowlingmanager.com is?
No, I don't.
So it's a one-stop shop for club management. It primarily functions as a website, but it's so much more than that. So if you have a lawn bowling club and you don't have a website, I would strongly recommend checking it out. But it'll serve as your club website, but behind that it can also serve as a database, so you can keep track of all your members and addresses, whether they've paid their dues or whatnot. And then it also serves as a tournament and league night. You can assign your match chair or games committee to update scores, and I think it already has a pre-made league function, so you just input the teams and then it'll auto input the rest. So it's a pretty neat little tool if you don't have a very efficient club website, or if you're looking at maybe making your club a little more efficient. I would definitely recommend checking it out. just spliced the jack the wrong way there on our way through. Looks like it's probably 2 Manitoba right now.
I'm sure Shirley knows to watch for the back.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see.
Yeah, it looks like there's a pile of blue bowls if the jack were to go back, but
Yeah.
Shirley's coming in here.
Oh, not too bad.
It could be third shot.
I don't think Lena has anything else but a draw here.
Mm-hmm. Needs to come down in a hurry. It's trying. Wow, look at that.
Very nice bowl. Well
What a beautiful shot.
Well done. Cold draw. Come up with some weight. Take the bowl clean.
Yeah,
Move the jack.
If you can get the bowl clean, that's ideal. You don't really want it moving the jack, because that would probably kill it if you get the wrong side.
That's okay. Start again.
Just outside.
That's pretty good weight, I think. That yard or two extra weight.
Mm-hmm. Ended up in a pretty good spot, too. That gives you a little bit of coverage at the back. Not that the jack's going back there anyway.
Well, could slice towards the... You could slice that way and come into play. Not right to it, but
Mm-hmm.
be a shot.
I think Lena was trying to throw a guard there, but it came inside.
Yeah, guard's the hardest shot to play in bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you speak to Steve McCarahan. He thinks it's just as easy. You just got to remember to take it out and let it draw in.
I find guards to be the most difficult because you have to be so much more perfect with a guard. With a normal draw, you can be within a foot or so, and it's still pretty good. But with a guard, you have to be almost precise.
Close. Oh,
Just outside.
The extra weight doesn't come in.
So that's one blue. Make it 6-5. Six ends completed. 6-5. Pretty tight game. As always, if you have any questions or comments, reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Hopefully things are still working back home for you. I haven't heard any complaints about the feed being down or anything else. So Patty's got the mat back again, just a pace or so from the tee.
Not taking it too long, keeping it at average length.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the real difference. Clear brings the mat up, and then Patty keeps it back, but they still like to play them short. And that's a pretty good opening bowl there from Patty.
Yeah, she's played very well so far. Very good. Tough job being a lead on a pairs team.
Mm-hmm.
You set it all up, and then wham, it gets all different as soon as the jack moves, and then it becomes a skip game.
Yep. Yep. I actually quite enjoy playing lead in pairs. I prefer 3-bowl pairs over 4-bowl pairs, but
I think, are they doing that for next year?
yeah, that's what.
Rumor I hear.
Yeah, that's one of the changes for next year, which I'm eager to see.
Yeah, 4 bowls in pairs. It just becomes. I guess it just, well, the thing about bowls, all the different disciplines have different strategies. They're all different. The 4s are different, pairs are different,
Mm-hmm.
and but in pairs, You just got to make sure you've got your positions covered because it just changes very quickly. When you have 4 bulls, you don't want your lead to have all their 4 bulls on the jack because that jack's probably going to go back.
I remember talking to a few Australians, and they thought that 4 bulls, when played all at the same time, like the lead throws 4 and the skip throws 4, is just an absolutely ridiculous way to play. They said, well, when the skips get to the mat, why don't they both just blast at it, open things up, and then just have a draw game between the skips?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is, you know, that is one way you could play it, I suppose.
Nice ball, Patty.
Oh, there's a good ball there from Clarice.
Well done, yes.
I'm really happy with Kim, one of the volunteers, is standing guard beside us, making sure that people don't walk behind the players. Sending them off on the path behind us, as there's a path just 3 feet further back and it goes in the same direction.
She takes her job very seriously.
Well, I'm glad she does, as I've seen some of the umpires and some of the actual players are sneaking by her once in a while, and players on the mat have to stop and readjust because there's movement behind the head. Common courtesy to not walk behind a green when someone's on the mat about to deliver a bowl, which surprisingly few people seem to understand. We got a question here for you, Laura, on Twitter. What's your favorite memory of a Canadian championship?
Oh my goodness. Canadian championship was the second one in Toronto. We were playing against BC, Kelly McCarahan, Denai, and Gloria Chung. We were playing triples. And if my memory is right, we were down 4 with 2 ends to play. And Kelly ended up throwing a runner because we couldn't get our 4. And it went almost dead. The umpires had to come and measure it, and they declared it dead. So we were able to replay that end, and we managed to win that game. So definitely was a memorable one because I thought we had lost it. And then, as you know, with bowls, you never know what can happen. But I've had lots of good memories, but that's one that stands in my mind as a very stressful and exciting finish to the game.
I remember watching that game. That was in 2015 in Willowdale.
Yeah.
That was on sort of their middle deck to the one side of the clubhouse, if I'm not mistaken, down at one of the further end rinks, for maybe 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, and when we replayed it, BC just kept slicing through the head, and they just couldn't get their bowls within where they needed to. So so we pulled that one off.
Pretty good year for the Ontario women that year, if I'm not mistaken. They came away with the Lady Alexander Trophy that year. Not to be promoting Ontario too much, I don't know the stats on every other province, but during the stream yesterday, Roger Smith informed me that Quebec's won the Cy English 1 time and 1 time only, and we had a few questions back and forth about what year that was. Do you have any guesses on when Quebec won the Cy English?
No.
It was in 2010 in Edmonton. He gave me a full list of all the players on the team then as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Quebec team, they come, they love it here. That same year in 2015, when in Toronto, played against a lovely girls team from Quebec. And oh gosh, I don't remember their last names, but they had so much fun. They just love coming here, and they give everybody a good run for their money, and they do well, and they are very passionate about the game, as we all are. I don't think anybody here isn't. But Quebec's a little bit more passionate than others.
Got a question here from Jürgen Fessler from Ontario. He thought it was against the rules to give the grasses a skip. Yes, you can give, but not leave your foot to aim at, like Nova Scotia women's skip doing here.
Really?
I don't think there's any rule that says you can't do that, Jürgen.
I know you can't put an object.
Yeah, you
can't take your towel and put it there, say. But the argument is a foot an object?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know of any rule like that. I've never seen it called or enforced, I guess, if such a rule exists. When I'm in the office and I get those questions, I just turn around, pull out a rule book, and flip through it to find the right clause, but I don't have a rule book with me right now to open up. I'm pretty positive there's nothing in the conditions of play that state that, as I've pored over that document more times than I'd be able to count.
And to me, I don't see it as a problem. I mean, you are playing this as a team, and you are helping your teammate who's struggling with their line. Yeah, you show them the line. Whether you keep your foot there or not, I don't think
makes that much of a difference.
No.
I know in the game we streamed yesterday afternoon, it was men's triples, and in the very last end, Alex Scott put his foot out and was giving Grant Wilkie grass because Grant was really struggling. And the line that Alex gave was absolutely perfect, and Grant was just a couple feet too heavy, but his line was deadly. I thought that was interesting that he was giving grass on the very last end on Grant's very last bowl.
Yeah, but those guys will do silly things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was also a very entertaining game to watch. Manitoba got off to a hot start, and Saskatchewan slowly clawed their way back into it and just snuck out a win.
Yeah.
Keep the questions coming, Kerrigan and everybody else. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to make this a bit of an interactive stream. So at least I know there are 2 viewers out there watching, as John Zeitman's been messaging me, and now Jürgen has as well.
Oh, they're pretty good heads setting up over here. My goodness.
And there's not very many short bowls either. Like,
no.
The ones that are short are within a foot or so they're not outrageously.
And I think the Force team that David was telling me is doing really well is Alberta, Lyle's team.
Yeah, that's right. They're undefeated. They're
yeah.
sitting in first place.
And I'm trying to find where they are. Probably all the way down over there. Too far for me to see.
I actually had a real good chat with Pat Bird the other day, and when I asked him how his team was doing, his answer was, well, we're not very good, but we're undefeated. Which I thought was a really interesting way to phrase it.
Well, what's he gonna say? We're really good and we're doing real well.
Well, he was.
No, I know. He's a very low-key kind of guy.
He was telling me that during their provincial playdowns, they finished first, played 5 games, and had -10 plus minus or something like that. So all the games they won were just by 1 or 2. And he gave his, I don't know if it's lead or second, a nickname of RT, because they had all their games were super, super close, and then on the 18th end, every game, this guy he nicknamed RT would bowl a resting toucher, which is an absolutely brilliant way to start an 18th end.
No, I can't see them. They must be all the way over there.
Yeah, must be down on one of the further decks,
yeah.
B or C.
Oh.
But looking around on D-deck here, it looks like the Saskatchewan men's pairs team has made quite the comeback. It's now 9-6 over Ontario, whereas last time we gave an update, Ontario was up, I don't know, 6-1 or something like that. So Sask is on a roll, and on the green next to them, 9-3 Ontario over Quebec in men's pairs. And further down, BCB is up 7-4 over Alberta in men's pairs. On this deck, it's 7-1 Manitoba over Nova Scotia in women's fours. Further on down, it looks like it's 8-3 for BCB over Alberta A in women's pairs. 5-4 Saskatchewan over Ontario women's fours.
You got good eyes. I need my binoculars to see that.
So I've got a response from Paul Cordis, an umpire back in Ontario, saying there's nothing in the rules to prohibit a skip from giving grass. However, you must remove your foot once the ball has been delivered.
Then just stand there.
So there you go. That's a sighting from an Ontario umpire.
Okay, but then you can just stand there if you want. You don't have to actually have your foot out.
Yeah, you just stand
Seems
there.
to me.
Yeah.
But at least you can show them, and then
hmm
they should be able to get an idea. Anybody who's playing doesn't need to have a foot anyway. Just reminding them of where the line is.
I'm kind of curious how you would ever enforce that, because what if I just go and stand where I want you to aim, just say aim at me, and just stand there the whole time, because I'm just standing. I'm not
But
doing anything.
sometimes you're standing in the opponent's rink.
Yeah, I guess depending on how wide of grass you're taking, that's fair. That's fair.
You couldn't just stand there.
Shout out to Ivo Van Bastel there, giving me a quick wave on his way through. He was commentating earlier this week, and I'm sure I'll have him back again later as well. He's a very enthusiastic bowler from British Columbia. Bowls down in Arizona during the winter.
Nice ball.
So now I know there's at least one more person watching, as Paul Cordis sent me that message on Facebook, so I can tell you there's at least 3 people watching this feed anyway. But if you're out there watching, send us a message on Facebook or Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. So it looks like Clarice is putting together a pretty good head here, and Patty's just coming up a little bit short with her bowls.
Yeah, they got no back bowls for Lena to work with. This could turn out to be not a good end for Lena.
It's interesting that Clarice doesn't...
Ask for a back bowl. Well, she was kind of, but...
Well, no, I was actually looking at her delivery,
Oh.
that her non-bowling arm isn't resting on her leg or knee or anything like that. I would have expected that. A lot of players tend to put it on their leg for support, but
yeah, for balance.
yeah, balance, but no.
Well, she's been playing this game a long time. I'm sure. And successfully, too.
That's right, that's right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. She's still bowling pretty well, so no need to change anything.
No, and that's the thing, too, you know, if you're going to teach someone to play and how to deliver as best as possible, everybody's a little bit different. And in the end, they end up dictating how it works for them. And hopefully they're successful at it. Some people stand up, some people crouch. There are many, many different deliveries. The one you should try to avoid is shooting from the hip, though.
Yeah, you should always try to avoid that. I don't think greenskeepers will be very happy if you do.
No. But yet there's a lot of people who are very successful at that delivery, too.
How? I will never know, but
Well, it's about doing it the same way every single time,
yeah.
whatever that may be.
Don't know if you can see that down there, but I just saw Shirley kicking all the bowls back as they were sort of parallel with the mat. That's kind of a I wouldn't say a pet peeve of mine, but something that I would probably do the same. I'm not a fan of when the balls are directly beside them. I like them just a little bit behind, as I tend to take a step to the left or the right after
Yeah,
delivering.
careful.
Don't want to be stepping on a whole pile of bowls.
Come on, to the back.
Yeah, not quite there. Going up a few feet short.
She must have been trying to draw it in, but I'd want something at the back, especially knowing Lena. She's going to defer. She's going to defer to a weighted shot.
Mm-hmm.
And right now she has the back bowl. Not far back, but she's got the back bowl.
If I was Shirley, I probably would have been trying to change that angle up a little bit too. Maybe come in and roll your bowl over, make it a bit more of a gap between bowl and jack, or not as juicy of a target. Because right now, standing on the mat, that looks like such an easy shot to me. You can play any kind of weight into that and get bowl or jack, and it's a pretty big target right now. As you see Lena coming down well through the head and got it.
Oh.
Unfortunate result.
But if she had hit that prop, if the jack had gone back, she'd be sitting 2 now.
That's right.
And, yeah.
So now Shirley's probably just going to try to draw down to that Nova Scotia bowl.
Yeah, because she's got now, and then Shirley's got no back bowls, so she can't even try to do anything like that. Come on back. Come on back.
Well, that's pretty good draw weight. Lena's asking if they're down 1 or 2, which I would have to think it's 2. No, just 1. Big thanks to George Cubis and his officiating crew, as one of them's walking by here. They've been busy all week. There's been quite a few jack calls and bowl measures, and they've been quick on their toes to have to race around and help out whoever's needed.
Oh. Wow.
What a result.
What she wanted?
What a result. Well, that kind of almost averages out. She had a pretty good bowl with a rotten result earlier, so now that's
I guess. Yep.
if karma is any indication.
Yeah, we see now.
Could be 3.
Shirley doesn't have a whole lot of position here.
Well, there's that one bowl off to the right back here. And she does have 1 to play, so this could be a 2-shot attempt here. Hit it and get some separation, and then draw it with your last. And she got her.
Not bad.
Well, that's a pretty good shot.
Yeah,
Got second out of it.
She rolled in. Very good.
Probably play underneath, try to push Shirley through, or just inside to draw a second shot, would be my guess. I think that's what Lena's doing.
She's coming on the forehand, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. You can play that, yeah. Not too hard.
Roll Shirley through, and that's
okay.
That makes it a little trickier now for Shirley to get to, and it's still, I think... Well, actually, I don't know. Is that still 1 Nova Scotia?
I don't know. The front one might be shot.
That front one might be close. Clarice is taking a good look at it. It must be close. Yeah, I don't think she can make up her mind. Yeah, it's a measure. So Shirley's going to come down and take a look. It's always a good idea to come down and scope things out for yourself. Have a little chat with your teammate. I know that Davey and Annie were working hard with a lot of local businesses, so I'm going to give those a quick shout out for helping support this event as well. The first and foremost that I'm going to mention is Richlock Rentals, as they've been providing the scissor lifts for us that our cameras are sitting up on top, and that's very handy to have scissor lifts that you can drive around, as we have to reposition them after each round and can move them up and down. So big thank you to them for providing those for the week. There's also Splashes Bath and Kitchen, BMT, Commercial Body and Paint Fleet Maintenance. Even have a sponsorship in here from National Car and Truck Sales, Foster's Moving and Storage, Firm Management, the Market Stores, investors group. All of the support that you can get is very, very much appreciated. So big thank you to all the partners and sponsors that helped out from Victoria.
So right now, Ontario A and Saskatchewan are tied 9-9 after 9 in the men's pairs with the Patulis and the Steffens. It's a battle of brothers.
It is.
Ah.
That's a brotherly affair.
Yeah.
That is definitely not the result that Shirley wanted there. She just pounded in Lena's short bowl that might be in the count now. I don't know if Lena can find that port, but if you can drag the jack back a little bit, it'll be a for sure 3. Yeah, Daryl and I were talking yesterday about how there's a lot of family affairs here. Bowls tends to be a bit of a family sport. There's the Patuli clan, as you mentioned, John and Mike are playing together, but Harriet and Murray, their parents are also bowling here today, and then from Saskatchewan, Fran and Alex Scott, brother and sister, are also competing.
And then there's Steve Bezanson and his wife,
Yeah,
Lorraine,
Lorraine, that's right.
competing. And then, of course, we have the Foster family.
Yeah, the Foster family is almost always here, and then
Yeah.
there's also the Roth clan. There's Tom,
Oh, yeah.
Jim, Sue, Lori, and even Michelle. So I think they're just missing Aaron, and they'd have the whole crew out here.
And then the team that we're watching here, mother and daughter.
Yeah, Shirley and Clarice.
And then for Ontario, Dave Hootby and Elaine Hootby are here.
As are Ian and Laura McPherson.
McPherson.
Yeah. So they're putting this to a measure, so I guess it must be pretty close for 1. And I think it's 1 Nova Scotia. Well, they're measuring, it might even be 2. Yeah, 2. So that ties things up at 7.
Close game.
7-7 after 8. There's also a husband and wife from BC, Malcolm and Marie Taylor, are both here as well. I'm sure there are many others that I'm just not thinking of right now.
Yeah, there's a fair number of people I don't know here. I
There-
don't know a whole lot from Alberta, I think, on the women's side. Manitoba, don't know them either. Some of them, but not all of them.
So Patty's got the mat back a little bit further here. It's much closer to the tee now. And she just threw the jack out of bounds.
Yes, very important job for the lead to be able to throw that jack where it's required. But I think this team is still trying to figure out who has the best advantage with what. And nobody's really excelled with the different distances that they've played so far. So
Shirley's coming down to talk to Clarice to have a discussion about where do you want to put it.
I bet you go long.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to play...
A little longer than they've been playing. See what happens.
Clarice still has the mat up, but not nearly as much as she did before.
Oh, no, she's not going that far back.
So just changing the length up a little bit by keeping the mat back a little more than what she did before, but still up more than Patty did. So this is still a slight change in length. I was talking about this with, I think, Daryl earlier in the week, that a lot of players at the club level think that the very first end you have to have the mat at the 2 meter mark, and that's not the case. It says it must be at least 2 meters, not it has to be exactly 2 meters.
Yep. I remember a few years back, it was my novice years in playing, and took the mat right up to the hog line practically, and then we scored end after end after end, and the other skip was just having fits. And ever since then, I just love bringing the mat up. Because in the women's game, not so much here, but they don't often think to do that. We ended up losing that game anyway, but...
A couple of years back when I was playing in the bronze medal game at the singles, I was playing against Pat Bird, and we both like to have the mat up right at the hog line, so we just used one mat because carrying it from one hog line to the other is only, I don't know, what, 30 feet, 40 feet, something like that, so it's way quicker to just move it back and forth rather than going back to the ditch, picking it up and going back again. Don't know if it's a New Zealand thing or an Australian thing, but a lot of players tend to just use one mat when they play singles because it's quick to just pick it up and carry it with you.
Yeah.
Some players like to do that.
So slightly different length here, so they're not as tight as they've been in their other ends.
Mm-hmm. Starting to get a little bit of a slight breeze. Patty's still trying to figure out things on this ditch side.
Just a little too wide. Well, heavy as well, but probably doesn't go too wide.
Clarice is also playing that hand.
And she's a lefty.
That's right. There have been quite a few southpaws here this week that I've noticed. She had a really good line there, just needed some more weight.
Ooh.
She was flying on that. Good thing she found a friend.
Yeah, sometimes you tend to think so much about the line, you forget the weight part.
I found that to be quite a struggle the one time that I did play in Australia because the greens are so much faster there that I really had to consciously think about, playing less weight because the greens here are so much heavier. So the odd time when you forget about it, you just throw what you think is a normal draw and you're flying and boom off the ditch point at the back. You're like, oh, totally forgot. Takes a while to get used to. First couple days anyway.
Yeah, it is very challenging, but it's a lot of fun when you play on those kind of rinks.
Oh, is it ever? I'd be back there in a heartbeat if I could.
Yeah. Well, we can't be all fortunate like Ryan Bester and Kelly McCarrihan to get out there and stay out there and make a living at it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm wondering how they are going to deal with burnout, if that's even a thing down there, because to be working for bowls and then bowling
all the time,
I would have to think that eventually you're going to need to take some sort of a break. That's one thing I like and don't like about Canada is during the winters having that 6-month off season. I think 6 months is way too much, but I wouldn't mind having a month.
Yeah.
Just to sort of recoup, take a break.
Yeah. I guess you end up. There's a lot of people who go down South Florida and Sarasota and Arizona. They get a bit of a break, but
yeah, a little bit.
But those guys come back much better players, though. Once new people going down come back, they're much better players.
Yeah. John Siteman's chiming in, saying very much an Australian thing to carry the mat when you're playing. I love the idea of it when playing at the Aussie Open, but it takes a while to get used to pick the mat up and carry it with you.
They also don't like using rakes.
That's right, they use their feet a lot. And they only kick them as far as need be, so they tend to place the mat before they end up kicking the bowls. That way you know exactly how far you need to.
I know, I was told, so we're not old, we kick the bowls.
Lena's pretty close there.
She has a nice
Just inside.
I wonder if there's a double there.
There could be. There could be.
Because that'd be almost the only way to get the bowl off the jack.
I might be able to come inside and chip it sideways, but I don't know if that would be really beneficial.
Okay, let's see if she tries it.
Mm-hmm. She does have one more to come yet left after this bowl, so she has a second chance at it if need be. It doesn't look like a whole lot of weight.
Probably doesn't need a lot, but... Ooh, nice. Holy.
What a draw.
Oh my. Beauty. What do we know, huh?
Yeah, what do we know? Absolutely. Getting a questioning from Paul if we can give an update on scores that we can see. Sure can. In the men's pairs over here, Steve and Fred from Ontario are up 11-5 over Quebec, and the Stefan brothers are up 10-9 over the Patulis for men's pairs. Alberta's up 10-7 over BCB in men's pairs. On the rink next door, Manitoba's up, or sorry, New Brunswick is up 13-7 over BCA women's pairs. Women's fours, Saskatchewan and Ontario are all tied up 8-8. Women's fours. Women's pairs, BCB is up 8-6 over Alberta. Can't see a whole lot of other scoreboards at the moment. So that women's fours, I think they're all tied up at 5 between Ontario and Saskatchewan. Or sorry, that's not women's fours, that's women's pairs. Or triples. Women's triples.
Yeah.
Lena was just through the head there. Was just looking to grab the jack on her way through. After 9 ends, men's fours, Ontario's up 10-3 over Saskatchewan.
Do you want these?
No, that's okay. I can see them, it's just I can't see when people are standing in front of it. Laura's asking me if I wanted to use her binoculars. That's such a useful thing. I was commenting with Daryl earlier. That is such a great idea to bring binoculars here, so that way you can see all the scoreboards around and really zoom in. And Shirley's staying away from that and just going to take the one and run. So we're halfway there, and it's 8-7.
Tight game.
Very tight game here.
Nobody's dominated in length or anything.
Mm-hmm. So I think Lena just will have to take a short break so that we're going to have a quick pause in action here while teams go and sort things out. I haven't really heard much of Harriet this week. Normally she's pretty loud on the greens and you can hear when someone's close, so either nobody's been close at all or she's really toned things down.
I don't know, I haven't been watching her games. I don't know if they're close or I don't know what her record is, but yeah, definitely if she does get very talkative with her bowls and animated and fun to watch.
Well, I think they're 2 and 4 if she's playing women's pairs.
Yeah.
2 and 4 with a plus 19. So I'd have to think they can't be playing that badly.
Okay.
This is my first time to the island here in Victoria, the Juan de Fuca Bowling Club, and it's absolutely gorgeous here.
Yeah, I was here for the NAC a couple years back now.
Would have been, what, 2012? No. 2010?
Yeah, maybe. 2013. You probably know better than I do.
Trying to think. 2014 was in Arizona, so yeah, probably 2012 would have been it.
So, used to make us exercise and walk around. There's all kinds of paths all through this parkland kind of recreation area.
For those who are listening and don't know, the NAC is the North American Challenge, and that's sort of a test match between Canada and the USA that happens every 2 years. Alternates between being hosted in Canada and the US. So this past year, 2016, it was at the PIBC in Vancouver, where Canada won 6 of the 7 trophies up for grabs. So it'll be hosted again next year somewhere in the USA, where I'm not sure if they finalized details on where it's going to be. I've heard rumors of California, but I don't know if that's got any merit to it or not. So for those who are listening, if you don't know, there are going to be some pretty big changes happening next year to the National Championships for 2018 and beyond. We're in the middle of translating the big final report. It's pretty massive and is taking a while, so it will eventually be on our website once translation is done. That's one of the, I don't want to say hindrances, but one of the concerns with being a national sport organization is everything needs to be in both official languages. So whatever we post on our website needs to be in French and English, and so that can take a little while to get completed. But if you do have any questions about the format changes or any other changes, feel free to send us a message. I'd be happy to talk about it if need be. So we are back here, going to start the action, and Clarice has brought the mat back up again, so let's back up a little further where they sort of started when they were bringing the mat up.
Yeah, let's see if the break changes anything.
How's that for throwing a jack, though? Clarice threw it almost exactly the length that Shirley was asking for. Brilliant. Looking over beside the green here, I'm not sure if that's Everett or not, but I can see the Bergs are holding a cute little baby. Jennifer and John McDonald from Alberta just had a 4-month-old named Everett, and he has been absolutely splendid. Everybody loves him. He's been really quiet. I haven't heard him make a peep. And that's real dedication to be playing at a national championship with a 4-month-old.
Yes.
That
Maybe it's the first baby. You can do it with the first baby. I don't know if you could do it with 2.
yeah, I think that might be the case. But I'm shocked that that means they both played in their provincial playdowns, and he would have been probably, I don't know, 2 months old at that time. That's real dedication. Both leads here coming up just a couple feet short with their first ones. Clarice is pretty consistent. Starting to build the wall. Great wall that nobody ever wants to see.
Oh. Shall we go tell Lena that it's illegal for her to leave her foot there?
I really don't know how you could ever enforce that, though. Because it's your head, so you're allowed to stand anywhere on the rink, are you not? So I would argue that you're just standing.
going. Keep
Oh,
going.
there it is.
Nice bowl.
Shot
Very
drawn.
nice.
So we'll see if that's going to be enough grass. If that's what Lena was doing. I think it takes a lot more grass than that, or at least Patty took a lot more anyway. But she took a lot more grass and came all the way back to the center line as well. So
That's good back bowl.
I do love to see that though, as Shirley's got her foot planted sideways. I find that makes life so much easier when your skip says, "I want you here, draw to my foot."
Yep.
That makes life really simple, and that's something that Daryl's been really enforcing as a coach, to just keep it simple. You don't really need to overthink things, just draw to my foot. That's easy, you have clear direction.
Yeah, you have a target rather than anywhere at the back is fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess David Anderson's also reinforcing that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a good coaching. Give them a target.
Mm-hmm.
So you're aiming for something.
Ooh, just wanted to get by that. She would have been by. I think she would have been on the jack.
Too many times, if you don't have a very specific shot that you want to play,
Mm-hmm.
you won't make anything. So,
When I was at WOBA and I was talking to Dan Milligan, he's quick to tell you stories and coaching tips and whatnot, as he's a pretty good coach himself. He says if you ever are skipping, only give your team one option. Don't say you can either do this or either do that, because as soon as you give a second option, then you're going to get a garbage bowl, because they haven't made up their mind as to what shot they're going to play. But if they only have one option, your mind is made up. You're not switching back and forth.
yeah, because you say things like, well, if you're a little heavy, you can come off this bowl. But if you've got the right weight, you'll come right in. Well, then you're playing with two different weights.
Yep, that's right.
And then you end up trying to find something in the middle, and that never, ever, ever works.
Mhm.
I agree completely. You come up with one shot and one shot only.
And sure, that might be an option. If you're heavy, it'll work, or if you're lighter, it'll work, but you don't need to necessarily tell them that.
That's right. Yeah.
You know that as a skip that's an option, but your lead doesn't necessarily need to know that there's more than one good outcome that could happen.
Yeah, I had someone laugh at me one time when I said to my teammate, I says, hit the bowl here. So
Mhm.
like say at, if you're standing on the mat, hit the bowl at 9 o'clock on the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, you can't be that precise. I says, yes, you can. And watch what happens.
Yep.
Now, you might not hit it right at 9 o'clock, but you're going to hit it.
Yeah, yeah.
As opposed to see if you can find this bowl.
One thing that I would love to have more of in Canada is more coaches at the club level, as some of the players at the club level are blissfully ignorant of some of the strategies and things that can happen in a game.
Yeah.
I've had a couple club members tell me that there's no way you can predict which way the jack is going to go when you hit it, and I just sort of have to, I don't want to laugh in their face, but absolutely there's a way you can predict which way the jack is going to go, and you can be pretty accurate in getting a bare jack and getting it, left, right, center, whatever. It takes a lot more skill than what a lot of players have to do that, but absolutely you can.
Now here's an example where Shirley and Clarice did not have any back bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And Lena can play the up weight, and she did exactly that. And now Shirley's going to be forced to try to draw in. And she's short.
Inside the clubhouse here, they've got a pretty big screen TV. They've got the broadcast up, so whatever we're saying, they're hearing in the clubhouse, and they're watching the feed, so thanks for sharing that, Daryl. He's inside and just took a picture and let us know that it's working anyway, so that's good news.
Good. Yeah, it's kind of fun. If it was raining, you'd be able to sit inside and watch the game.
Well, if it was raining, I don't know if we'd still be streaming, but if we could find a tent, then maybe.
That's true. Don't put them in. Okay. Oh my goodness, now.
Now that's a big cluster.
Yep.
I actually wouldn't wouldn't be surprised if Shirley ends up coming the other hand and just plays some weight through.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Push and sit, even get second shot out of it. You might follow through for shot.
Yeah.
But I guess it is still pretty easy to draw around. You don't have to be on the jack. The closest bull is still 2 feet away, so anything with good weight is going to cut them down.
Yeah, but I don't know on her forehand if she can come out wide enough.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly it's not there on the backhand on the ditch side, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Clarice's calling through that port with a little bit of weight just to push and sit.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot of weight, maybe a yard or two through, nothing ridiculous.
There's an animated family.
Yeah, just heard Foster's over there. Honey, what a bowl.
They're always screaming at their bowls and having a good time. And it's a very encouraging team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jackie is consummate at that. She's a great team player.
Mm-hmm.
She's also on the national team right now. And she's definitely the glue, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she knows how to rein everybody in, and she's so calm and upbeat and positive.
She's very good at positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Currently 10-5, Ontario over Saskatchewan in men's fours. 10-7, Alberta over BCB in men's pairs. 11-10, Saskatchewan over Ontario in men's pairs. 11-6, Ontario over Quebec in men's pairs. 16-9, New Brunswick over BC in women's pairs. And Lena just came through the port and trailed the jack back. I don't think she wanted that at all. She just threw her arms up and walked around saying, ugh. Nova Scotia's still holding 2, but now it's out in the open.
Well, that's what I mean. I think if Lena's as a weakness, I don't know. I mean, we all have weaknesses. It's probably heavier than she ever to be. That's why with a player like that, you know some of their weaknesses and you make sure you cover the back, or just...
For the first time, I just heard little baby Everett crying a little bit, but he quieted down as soon as he was told.
Oh, look at Shirley's coming. Wow.
Oh, what a shot there from Shirley. Just a little too much. That's good for second, though.
Rolling down when you get past the 6 feet mark,
2
meter mark, it starts to roll.
Still 1 for Nova Scotia. Lena doesn't need to change a whole lot. She could play almost the same bowl. Well, she's definitely not short, I don't think. Prove me wrong, that died in a hurry.
Yeah, missed opportunity for multiples there.
1 Nova Scotia. Tie things back up at 8. You know, we were talking about how the guard is sometimes the toughest bowl to throw. I also find that the 4th bowl tends to be the toughest bowl to throw when you're already lying shot, when it's the last bowl of the end, to try to draw in another because you're hesitant, you don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
Just to draw a nice easy draw is sometimes the toughest thing to do.
Sometimes it's better off to not even get close to it, so you have to figure those times where you need to try to get that other shot in. Every point counts.
So it looks like Patty's having a bit of trouble here throwing a jack straight. That's just in play, but not by much.
It's an art to throw the jack.
It is. It is. And I don't think the rink is crooked enough that would have caused it to drift off to the side. I know sometimes when a rink is crooked, it'll drift off one way or the other.
Jean doing a little dance in the middle of the rink. She must have been close.
Patty just missed the jack on her way through. I've noticed that Clarice is definitely using the mat. I've heard that she's standing in different places depending on where she's throwing. And that can be a fine art to master.
Yeah, and to have your lead throw it exactly right every time.
You can see that Patty has her thumb resting right on the grip. Do you keep your thumb that high up, or do you have it more down to the side?
I have a grip delivery.
Yeah.
I do the same, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it causes troubles in the rain.
Right.
So I have to actually change my grip in the rain. I try to cup it more.
Right.
When it starts to really pour, like, forget trying to wipe it down. It's just that I'm giving away some of my weaknesses. I don't have too many, of course, but it's hard to throw weight with the cup delivery for me because I don't play it often enough. I've gone to playing with smaller bowls when it rains.
Right.
I'm playing with this. I play with a Taylor 2, and then when it rains, I'll play with a Taylor 0. And then when it gets really pouring, I'll change how I cup the bowl.
Right.
But it messes with the weight, so.
And
we've had a lot of opportunity this summer to play in the rain in Ontario.
There's been a heck of a lot of it.
Yeah. But it's good. You need to do that. I mean, they're incredibly lucky this week that there's been no
rain.
No rain.
Oh, that's a great shot there from Clarice. I know some players that will actually wait till it's raining and then they'll go out and practice just so they can
yeah, I've done
master
that.
it. Yeah.
I've done that. I've even dumped my bowls in a bucket of water. But that doesn't work quite the same because the grass isn't wet. So, but yes, I was playing singles in the Lady 3-day in Ontario, and I was playing one of my teammates, and it was pouring, and I managed to keep it pretty close, and then she got the mat and she took it long, and she looked at me and grinned. So she needed 4 to win.
Yeah.
And managed to get 1 bowl in. That's what you got to do, eh?
Yeah. Just got to get one
win
close.
Every single game.
When I was talking to Ivo, the custom out here in BC is to play 2/3, 3/4 length. So sort of longer ends, whereas I found in Ontario that's the exact opposite. A lot of players like to play a little bit shorter. Not very often have I come across players who just absolutely love to play tee to tee.
Yeah, well, you do that sometimes. But yeah. But we've played it. I mean, if you have opponents that are having trouble, especially when it's raining or struggling with longer jacks, take it longer.
Absolutely. I myself am personally not a huge fan of long ends. Playing tee to tee is not my favorite. Lena just crashed on that short bowl from Clarice.
You also take away a bit of the drive game if you go tee to tee.
It's tougher to throw a drive when you're playing that length.
Maybe not the guys, but the girls for sure.
Well, there's more opportunity to miss your line as well.
Yeah.
There also tends to be a whole lot more clutter up front when you play tee to tee as well. Most players are either
or they're
coming
all
up
in the ditch.
Yeah, coming up a little bit shorter. They're in the ditch. That's right. So still plenty of action left at this event. After this game here, we'll be streaming, I believe it's men's pairs in the afternoon. And that'll be about 1:30 local time.
Which men's pairs?
I believe it's Saskatchewan, and I'm not sure who they're playing. It might be Manitoba.
So that could be a big game depending on what happens over here. The pairs, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And then we're back again on Friday morning. I think we're doing a women's fours match in the morning. And then if there's any tiebreakers in the afternoon, which I don't know if there will be. I would assume there'll probably be at least one discipline that'll have a tiebreaker.
No, sometimes you never know. Because the first tiebreaker is head-to-head, I think. I think that's still the way it is.
No, it's all on the green.
Oh, is it?
Everything's on the green for tiebreakers here now.
Really? That's good.
Mm-hmm. If there's two teams, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. If there are two teams tied for first, then they both just advance to the gold medal game, and that's that. But if there are three teams tied for first or teams tied for second, then you do it on the green.
Are you sure? Not head-to-head first?
Nope, not head-to-head anymore. If there's two teams tied, I believe it's a full-length game, so that'd be 18 ends in pairs and fours and 16 ends in triples. But if there's three or more, then you play mini games, so you play a half game.
Oh, well, that's good, because there's nothing worse than not playing the gold medal match because you lost head-to-head and ending up in the bronze match. That's happened before.
When this was first, I think last year might have been the first year this was implemented, of having tiebreakers on the greens, and I heard nothing but good comments
I think that's what the players would prefer.
From the players, yeah. Although I did hear a few negative comments saying, you know, at international level they don't have tiebreakers on the green, so why are we doing it? Which I can definitely understand that point of view as well. But if you've ever played in competition, it really does suck to lose out on a gold medal match or any medal match just because of plus-minus or head-to-head or anything else like that. That is a pretty compact head down there.
I know, this has been quite, I think it's been I wouldn't say boring, because it's not, but they're tight. They're so tight, and they're all being very cautious. Just not too many wild shots to be made yet. It'll hopefully get a little exciting at the end.
So that's 2 for Manitoba to make it 10-8. Eleven ends played with 7 more to go. Awfully quiet on social media. If you're following along, send us a question or a comment on Twitter at BCB Bulls and on Facebook at BCB Official. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you have me personally on Facebook or Twitter, feel free to send me a message as well. As I'm monitoring that throughout the game. Next door, New Brunswick's up 16-11 over BCA in women's pairs. A couple rinks down, women's fours. Saskatchewan is up 13-8 over Ontario. Further on down the line, in women's triples, it's 9-6 Saskatchewan over Ontario. Mm, 9-6 Manitoba over Nova Scotia in women's fours. And I think it's 10-6 for BC over Alberta in women's pairs. Clarice got the map back. She has the map back up and came up a yard and a half short there.
So neither team really wants to change too much.
No, they've both been sticking with exactly what they know. Placing the mat exactly where they want it and rolling the jack to the same place over and over. So Clarice was several feet short and Patty is a few feet through. This looks much heavier here from Clarice. She's going to need to find a friend on that.
That works.
Just pounded it right into the head. Good thing she found a friend on that. Not sure if that's Wendy or Sharon off on the sideline knitting a blanket of some sort, but she had next to nothing when this game started and she's almost got a full blanket knitted by now.
I think that's Sharon.
Is that Sharon? Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, that's Sharon.
Quick knitter. Or crocheter, I guess,
Yeah,
if
they've
that's what that
traveled,
is.
her and Wendy. So Sharon is Amanda's aunt,
Mm-hmm.
and Wendy is her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And they followed Amanda all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Amanda's been on the national team, and they followed her all the different parts of the world. It's
Mhm.
kind of neat to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Clarice definitely adjusted her weight on this one. That's a pretty good draw after pounding her first bowl in.
Okay, see, now this is what I'm talking about. Where is Clarice's fourth bowl going to be? I hope it's to the back.
Yeah.
Because Lena is not going to mess around with this.
Yeah,
She'll
no.
be up and in.
Mm-hmm. I think you can probably relate to what I was feeling when we were streaming the juniors and I was seeing so many players not making the greatest strategic moves, and it just made me wish I was out there
Perfect.
playing. Just
Oh.
kissed it the wrong way.
Okay. So what was that about the juniors?
When I was at the juniors and I saw some of the under 25 players, they weren't playing very strategically, and so I was thinking, man, I wish I was out there playing because I could beat the pants off you guys because you're making silly errors. And now I think, yeah, Shirley's calling for a back bowl here from
Yeah,
Clarice,
she is. Does
which
she
is
have? I hope she's
which
out.
is good.
Yeah, she does. She's good. Yeah.
That's a
Good
good place
job.
to be.
Yeah.
But when you see people just leaving huge gaps like that, like if that would have came up 20 feet short, then you're just thinking, man, I wish I was out there because I'd be taking full advantage of that. I think she's just inside. Got the bowl.
Nice bowl.
Beautiful shot.
Nice shot. Yeah, but now Shirley can.
Yeah, Shirley can play around with that a little bit. She could
Yeah.
probably throw almost the same bowl that Patty just threw,
Yeah.
if she can.
Because if she moves the jack back, she's not going to give up more than one now. There are two bulls back there. But could be sitting two if she hits it right.
Yeah, that's right. And with 4 bowls as a skip, you can have lots of opportunities to make something happen. The way she's lining up, I think she's playing her backhand. That's interesting.
Yeah, she trails that jack the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. But she's coming up short. That just made that port a whole lot smaller. I think Lena's just trying to draw around everything. She has pretty good draw weight, but didn't want to come back all the way. A little scared of pushing in Shirley's last bowl there, I think.
Ah, but you shouldn't be. You should just. You end up pushing it in, you move it out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you push it, that's the other thing. It's no longer in the draw line, and it's easier to hit.
Shirley's throwing a little bit of weight here. And I think she just found the gap. But that's setting up in a pretty good position here now. If she does end
Yeah.
up getting it or chipping the jack a little bit.
Yeah. The back is now in control of Shirley.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Lena tries to throw something back there to get some more coverage option. That looks like a much tighter line.
There you go.
Just squeaking
See?
around.
Yeah.
That leaves a bit more of an angle here now for Shirley. If she does end up coming a little bit narrow through that port, she can get a wick backwards. Not that she'd be aiming for that by any means, but
I think she only has one bull in the head, though.
that's another factor. I think she's looking to just blast it, though. Based off of her body language there, I think she's just playing right up the middle again.
Yeah.
And that's
Good. Could backfire. Because if she hits that top blue, she could hit it onto her own and push it out.
And she's repositioning herself as one of the Manitoba players, just crossing behind the rink here in front of us after filling up her water. She's chasing it down, but I don't think she likes it. But that almost worked. That gets her another bowl in the head.
Yes, it does.
But now that's going to be tough to play that kind of weight again. I don't think she will. I would assume with her next bowl she'll be looking to just sort of trail it down or rest that blue bowl out.
No, she can come after the blue bowl. When she loses her back bowl, it doesn't matter. She has that other bowl there.
If she rolls the blue one over twice, she's lying 3. She uses it and grabs the jack, she's lying 3. And Lena's looking to maybe trail it the other way before she has that opportunity. And if she would have just got by that, she might have been close.
You have to start looking for your opportunities to score more than one. Right now, she's down 1 though, so.
So it's a 10-8 game, and this is end number 12, so it's still relatively early on. It's past the halfway mark, but there's still plenty of game left, so you can afford to be a little adventurous.
Yeah, I'd love to see her try to... Because she kicks the back jack this way, should be alright.
She threw a fair bit of a weight with her last one, so she's going to throw some weight again here with this one.
A little bit, yeah, good.
And just got her bowl over a little bit. So she's still just down 1.
Yeah. Now the only problem is, does Lena see that she comes after Shirley's bowl? She could score multiples. And Shirley's bowl is jack high, so you just have to push it back a little bit.
Yeah, you don't need to do much. Just give it a roll and a half, and you're sitting 2 and a look. Which hand do you play to do that, though? Do you come underneath or draw through the port?
I come under the ditch side.
Yeah, that's what she's doing.
Yeah. Because you've already played that a few times as well.
Definitely not short on this one. Just got the wrong bowl.
Yeah.
So I believe that's just going to be 1 for Nova Scotia here. Clears takes that out, and yeah, just 1. So that makes it...
Chance for multiples for both of them, and it didn't happen. (14-15) for Saskatchewan pairs A after 13 ends. So that's gone up and down. Yeah, it's a close game, that one.
It is. That's a back and forth battle. Is that 15-10 for BCB over Alberta A, men's pairs on rink 3? Over there between Greg and Malcolm Taylor. I think that says 15-10.
Yep.
Yeah. And then 14-5, Ontario men's 4s over Saskatchewan men's 4s.
Yeah, they're looking to... Ontario's looking to win that one. That would help their cause. Sask A, that's Mark Petula, Mark Satula, Ernie Mead. I think it's a critical game for both of them.
I remember seeing Ernie post a Facebook status last night saying that I think they're 4-1 or something like that. They had a really good day yesterday.
Oh, they're 4-1? Oh, so it's not too bad.
Or something like that. I'll have to double check. I can pull that up real quick.
I think it's a pretty unnecessary win for the Ontario people, but I can't remember all the stats.
Yeah, so Ontario A is 5-1 in the men's 4s, and Saskatchewan's 4-1-1.
Oh.
So yeah, that is a very crucial game for both teams.
For which one? 4s?
Yeah, for men's 4s.
That's I think I'm looking at, yeah, that's the trips I'm talking about.
Oh, the trips. Okay. Saskatchewan's 4-2, and Ontario B is 4-2.
Okay. Oh no, it is the fours. Okay, I thought Mark Satula was playing triples, but I guess he's playing fours.
Yeah, no, he's playing fours with.
Okay. All right, so I got that mixed up. I thought they were playing triples. So yeah, definitely Ontario A have been doing quite well. So that's another big game.
That is a huge game. Both teams need that win to try to solidify their position.
Yeah, I was just talking with Chris Adams about, you know, the luck of the draw, who you get first when you play and who you get last. And she seemed to feel that it's nice to be able to get maybe the weaker teams first, because then by the end of the week you're getting, you know, you're in your stride and you're getting used to the rinks and stuff like that. Whereas I said, well, sometimes if you have the stronger teams first, because you get them out of the way.
Yeah.
So it's at some point or another you have to play them all at some point.
Yeah.
But I think I'd almost want to play the stronger teams early on.
I think I would too, because there's not as much pressure and you can rebound from it, whereas if you play them at the end,
it's do or die.
Yeah, it's probably a must-win, and get a must-win against a tough team is tougher than a must-win against a weaker team.
Sometimes you get lucky and you get a bit of mix of your draw, but not always. So.
Yeah, it really is just luck of the draw.
And so do the good teams get better? And then, you know, but you play on this surface a couple of times by day 2 or day 3, you see everybody's games improve across the board.
Also, a bit of a benefit to being a faster playing team is that you can get off early and you can go and scout out how your oppositions are playing. I saw that happen quite a bit at the juniors. Some of the players were quick off the green. They'd go and plop down right behind whoever they were playing next so they could scout them out and see what they like to play, what they don't like to play, how they're doing. Big thanks to Dave Cox for making the schedule for this event and every other event this year. Really, it's no easy task to do that, to assign every player and team to rinks, so that way nobody's playing on an outside rink every time, or nobody's just strictly on A deck or whatnot. To make it fair, relatively fair for everyone, is no easy task when there's 60 teams here. I think that might have gotten Lena's head there as Patty came racing onto the green and sort of threw her off her groove.
The other thing I noticed this year that they usually do it. They had teams, the A and B teams, play each other early in the draw. So yesterday morning was Ontario. I think yesterday afternoon was the BC guys. But you do need to get those games out of the way early, so that they can't be influenced at the end.
Yeah. We do have a draw policy that says, when possible, we try to have them face each other in round 3. So if possible, we try to make it so that way an A team plays a B team in round 3. But there are sometimes circumstances where that's not always easy to do. One case in particular, this year New Brunswick only sent pairs teams. So when we made the schedule, team number 4 was New Brunswick, but that's for pairs. So technically team 4 was also Nova Scotia Triples B and Alberta 4's B. So then when you start to assign teams to numbers, to still try to make it random, we don't really want to just be saying, you know, specifically we're putting this team here and that team there, because that takes away from the randomness of the draw.
Right.
So it's not always the easiest thing to do when you end up having partial teams, to get them all to play each other in round 3. But this year, I think the latest that an A team ever plays a B team is probably round 5 or 6. So it's still in the relatively close to the first half of the event.
Yeah, they didn't do that though when I was in Vancouver. So that would have been
Vancouver, that would have been a few.
2015, maybe 2014, 2013.
2013 is when it was in West Van, I think.
Yeah. And I think it might have been Saskatchewan was playing another Saskatchewan team in the last game. And we needed one of the Saskatchewan teams to win. They didn't. And they were the ones that weren't likely to win. They were the weaker team. I don't know if it's Saskatchewan specifically, but
an A team played a B team, and
and it really in the end we still persevered. We ended up getting into the silver match anyway, but because we won our game, which is usually critical, is to win your own games. Never mind what else is going on around you.
A lot of times people worry about the standings, and if this team beats that team and we beat that team, then there's a chance we might do that. But
in the end, you have to go play your game.
Yeah, exactly. You could make things really simple for yourself and just win all your games, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, it looks like, am I seeing that right? Lena only has one bowl in the head there. I can't see on your monitor very good. But
yeah, that's what it looks like, so
okay.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It looks like it's not necessarily very hard to get it.
I could easily see her coming through there trying to pick it.
Yeah, just with a yard overweight, and she'll flop in.
Doesn't need to be overly aggressive at it, but definitely reaching. Shirley's asking, what about the jack instead of the bull? What happens if I get the jack back? And Clarice is saying that's not us. Shirley's asking, what about further back? Furthest back is away, so not a good idea to be driving at the jack then.
She doesn't want to. She's just trying to get their bull out. She's just wanting to make sure if she has movement on the jack, where is it going? I think it's worth the risk.
She's throwing a decent amount of weight into this.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, jeez, that was close.
Yeah, that was very close.
Good try. I like to see players trying to do those things rather than just drawing in. You have to look at how you can score multiple points and get your opportunities to do that.
I do like to see players playing a little more aggressively, and from all the streaming that we've been doing here this year, I'm always quick to point out who's bringing the mat up and who's not, because I like to see that people are playing around with that, and whether they're throwing drives or just changing the length. I like to see some variation. It can be a pretty boring game to watch when everybody just puts the mat at the tee and plays the same length in and out.
What's a good practice is you play a game and you just put the mat where all the bowls finished. Just put the mat down where the bowls finished, and you keep changing it. It's good practice to be able to handle different lengths.
I've definitely done that many times before, and even during a game I'll sometimes do that just because I'm too lazy to kick the bowls back, and I'm confident that I can out-bowl you at any length. But that really does depend on who I'm playing and how I'm playing as well too, though.
Of course.
Another question from Twitter: if you had only had a choice between an ultra wide bowl, example Lignoid, or narrow, example Redline SR in Canada, what would you choose and why?
That's definitely the wide playing bowl.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I get so frustrated when I see people playing with narrow bowls in Canada on slow greens and just tuck them up the middle and there's no draw to it.
but they often get cut in ruts, and they'll fall
Mhm.
back on you. So
Mhm.
it's not a very good all-purpose bowl for Canada. And as is explained to me, straight bowls are used on fast greens
Mhm.
because they don't become straight anymore.
That's right.
When you throw a straight bowl on fast green, you are basically taking the same kind of grass as you would a wide bowl on a heavy green.
Mhm.
It just allows you a little bit more control. If you play a wide bias bowl on fast greens, then you basically have to take like 3 rinks as
Mhm.
your line.
Mhm.
Whereas if you use a straight bowl, you're only using the 6 or 7 feet if you've got nice wide draws. But there's a lot of people who are using the straight bowls here in Canada. So
Yeah, and I know many people are not happy about it, as it they find that it tends to take away from the game, as if you don't have any sort of draw on your bowl whatsoever coming in, then that's not really lawn bowling. So the way some people have explained it to me, saying that lawn bowling is a draw game, and if your bowl doesn't draw at all and you're just throwing right up the middle every time, then it's more like alley bowling.
I find straight bowls can be a detriment more than they are an asset
Mhm.
in general. Sure, you'll get lucky where you have a rink that will allow you to come right up the middle consistently all the time.
Mhm.
But most rinks will not do that.
When I was at WOBA, I was talking to Dan Milligan, and he was saying, that in Canada you should make it so that you have to use bowls that draw this amount, because the game's supposed to. The way he held it up was something like this, so that way, like, it goes up and it comes around. Is the way that bowls are meant to be played. I don't know if it was him or someone else that suggested maybe we should have a list of bowls that are acceptable to use in Canada based on average green speed, and the green has to be this fast in order to use an arrow bowl. But I don't know how you would ever create a list like that, because there's so many different makes, models, and types that would be a pretty exhaustive list.
Well,
And I'm sure there'd be a lot of dispute about it too, as not everybody agrees. A lot of people like to play with narrow bowls. So
yeah, I say just play. In the end, I've got to make my bowls work and beat you,
Mhm.
whatever way that is. And you have to decide whether you're leading or skipping with straight bowls. If you're leading with straight bowls, it's probably not too bad. But if you're skipping, that could be a deterrent.
Mhm.
Not a good idea, because you can't get around bowls that might be in your way.
That's right. That's right.
And they don't understand that. Some people don't understand that. So let them play with their bowl that they want to play. I'll work around it.
Several years back, when I played in WOBA, back when it was in London, played with a gentleman who was using Vitalite bowls, which I don't think that company even exists anymore. But they were extremely, extremely wide, and so when I was playing lead for him, I was trying to call him to draw through a port that was probably close to 6 to 8 feet wide between the two bowls. So I just draw through here, and he said, "I can't. My bowls are too wide." And so I just sort of gave up trying to call ahead for him then, because if you can't draw through a hole that's 8 feet wide, then I don't really know how to call ahead for you.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss.
Holy, it's going to be a game and a half, this one. 10-10 after 13. Wow. Doesn't get much closer than that.
No, it doesn't. I was expecting this game to be down to the wire, and so far so good. Rink next door is also 16-16 after 16. Women's pairs, New Brunswick, BC A. Women's fours, Saskatchewan's up 14-11 over Ontario. beside that, women's pairs, BCB's up 11-9 over Alberta. Further on down, women's triples, 13-6 for, I think that's Saskatchewan over Ontario. Down at the far end, women's pairs, Ontario's up 19-4 over Quebec, I think. And they're changing the scoreboard on that game too.
Oh yeah. Looking at 21, I think 22. 20.
Shirley's looking to try to cut things down here, as this looks like could be 2 or 3 for Nova Scotia at the moment. I would be probably trying to get another back bowl if I'm Lena right now. And if you hit the bowl that's near the jack square, it's coming right back to Clarice's bowl sitting there waiting.
But I missed what Shirley was trying to do with her first one. I thought they had a bowl close. I thought she was like second shot. Maybe I'm wrong.
From back here, it looks like that's quite a handful there for Nova Scotia. Yeah, 4.
Play your forehand into the 2 bowls. Looks like she's playing your backhand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that. I would probably play into those 2 bowls because that's easier to rest and flop in to get a second shot. But Shirley is wide and through the port, way out at the back.
If she was a little bit narrower, that would have worked too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything in the head. If I was Lena, maybe try to go right back because there's 3 bowls back there.
I think that's what she's trying to do. That looks like that has some pace to it.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, ooh, that's not what you wanted.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're going to throw weight, you want to go to the back, make sure you take enough grass.
Yeah, you got to really send it out there and make sure you miss everything.
Yeah, David always tells me, narrow and heavy is a killer.
Narrow and heavy is a killer.
Especially when you're holding shot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing's changed in the head also, so you give Shirley 2 shots at it. She came in narrower.
Took off a lot of weight too.
Yeah.
Oh, just through the port. So that's at least 1 Nova Scotia, but is it more than that? I can't tell if Shirley's bull up there. No, ooh, 3. 3 right away. Yeesh.
Yeah, this could be the TSN turning point.
I think it is. I think it is. Nah, not yet. You still have 4 ends to play. Yeah, they do, but this 2, 3, just 3.
Yeah.
If it was more than that, I would say that was definitely a turning point because it leaves Manitoba chasing for the last 4 ends. But 3 is still very doable. Oh, I know somebody else is watching here now. John Tupper's reached out to us on Twitter as well. I believe he's from New Brunswick. I'm not positive on that though. Using straight bowls, I bought used bowls that were straight and with fast greens. I find that I have lost the needed to jack by second set. Not really sure what he meant by that. I'm guessing maybe with fast greens he doesn't need to have a second set of bowls. He just uses the straight ones.
And that's fine. Yeah. And how fast is fast?
That's a good question. How fast is fast? That is.
I'm talking 16.
Yeah, at least 16 seconds is what I would consider fast. That is one of the most tricky things to do. Is try to talk to someone about their green speed. Whenever we work with hosts who are going to be hosting a national championship, we want to make sure greens are at least 12 seconds, if not quicker. But 12 is a bare minimum, and we want them to be as good as possible. And whenever you ask members from the club, they say, "Oh yeah, our greens are great," but then when you get there, you find out, well, they're really not that great. But you think they are because you've got that hometown bias, and that you like them because they've worked well for you. So, when talking about green speed with other people, a lot of people tend to over-exaggerate how quick their greens actually are.
The thing that kills me, though, is for the most part, it's easier to play on a green that runs faster. So even if you're at 12 seconds, so you have your older people who, struggle with the weight if they've got rinks that are like 10 seconds or 9 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But they're happy because they're covered and they're nice and green. But I think the membership would play better and enjoy it more if it was a little faster. And they'd get used to it.
That's right.
Got to practice it and get used to that speed.
That's one of the biggest complaints I hear is, "Oh no, I can't get anywhere near, so I don't like fast greens." But it's just because you're not used to it. If you give it a week or two and actually start to get used to it, then yeah, you'll find out you can actually play quite well on fast greens. You don't go home with a sore back or a sore arm or anything like that from having to heave them. That is one thing that we've had to work with several different municipalities or city workers, because when the city looks after a green, they tend to think that it should be like a golf green and nice and green and lush, and that's definitely not the case. Sometimes when I see a brown green, I'm licking my chops because I know it's going to be quick. So when city workers look after a green, they like to keep it nice and slow and thick. So we've had to work with several city workers to try to get them to change that so they can actually have a good quality lawn bowling green instead of what looks visually appealing.
All right, come on. Gotta get in there, Clarice.
Do you have any sort of pre-delivery routine that you go through?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's subconscious, but I probably look at my bias about 3 or 4 times while I'm standing there. And I always visualize my line before it goes down. Like, I'm not quick on the mat. People are quick on the mat. I am not slow, but I'm not quick either, because I go through all those steps every single time.
Consistency is the most important thing.
Yep. If you're quick, that's great. But I just can't throw it that fast. Yeah, I don't think I've thrown around bias for a while. Knock wood.
Knock on wood as soon as you get back home, first bowl.
Boom. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. Look at, what is that crazy tennis player, Nadal? His crazy pre-shot routine before he sets up, right? Scratches his nose, scratches his head, scratches his arm, pulls this, pulls his pants down, right? Does it exactly the same every single time.
Yeah, I was watching that young Canadian kid earlier this week, and he dribbled the ball twice between his legs, 4 times, and then serve. And whenever he messed it up, then he faulted. The reason I brought that up is I was just watching Clarice. She tends to sort of rock the bowl a few times in her hands, I think 4 or 5 times before releasing. Consistency is the main thing. Just crashing on a short bowl there.
Who's on the jack there?
Not as Clarice.
Oh.
Yeah, right behind.
Ah, she got it there. Good girl. A little tough to get it out too, without getting the jack.
Yeah. That was a question that we were asked yesterday, is what's your most ideal first bowl for a lead? And one of the popular answers was a front resting toucher, but another one was 6 inches right behind the jack.
Yep. But then again, if the lead puts it there right off the bat, you got a bunch of bulls that are coming down. It's not likely to stay there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although you could be chasing it. The idea is to not chase it.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is to just throw in your second bowl.
Build the head.
Build the head, yeah. Don't chase it right away.
Daryl and I were having a good discussion the other day about how many players we've been watching here who have been chasing when they really should just be building the head. Just because the other lead put their first bowl in the jack doesn't mean you should be throwing drives or playing through the head 20 feet trying to get it off right away. You should just be looking to draw close and get a good second shot. But we've seen several teams and players out here who are chasing and eager to get that result right away.
It also depends what the scoreboard is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
If it's late in the ends, you need to get it off.
Yeah, if you're down 6 coming home, then you definitely want to be changing things up, maybe killing it early if need be.
Oh, surely. Well, the only good thing about the short bowl is she's not giving her any wingers. It's kind of maybe in the way. If you're going to be short, be in the way.
There are a lot of different frustrating shots you can have, but I find one of the most frustrating shots is when you give them a perfect wing.
And the other thing about this team is they're always communicating about where the shots are and what to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've watched a few teams here, they don't even talk to each other practically. So the skip's not even saying, put a bull here so they have a target or an aim in mind.
Oh, that's a pretty good shot there from Shirley. Yeah, no, communication is a very powerful thing. I think that a lot of teams would do well to communicate a little more.
Yep. I hate the comment that here, oh, she knows or he knows what to do. Well, maybe, but you need to also advise if there's something different that could be going on rather than what you think you should be doing.
Very rarely would you be able to go consecutive ends without needing to at least say something once, in my opinion. Lena and Patty have had a good discussion here about what to do.
Last bowl.
Lena's last bowl. Shirley still has one to come, but yeah, she's definitely got to make this count here. You don't want to be giving up 2.
Well, I might be hitting that. Depending where the bowl would ricochet.
She's well wide on this.
2 shots in her mind.
Mm-hmm. Big opportunity here for Shirley. If she can draw in a third, then they could tie this game up.
Yeah. She doesn't Didn't really have to be too scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
All the way.
Not quite.
2's good. I think it's 2.
Yeah, we're taking out 2 for sure, and gonna take a look. Clarice is having a real good look at that. I think she might get down to measure here yet. Just 2. It's at 13-12. After 15, so we're getting very close to the end here, and it's still a very close game.
Daryl's here now. Have you been watching the key game?
I have. It's been interesting, definitely interesting to watch.
They're both being very, very cautious. No big ends have been lost. Keeping the mat lengths consistent.
It's just a matter of who's going to make the first mistake.
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been walking around and seeing any other interesting games around?
There's actually a number of really, really close games. The Ontario A and Saskatchewan A men's pairs is really, really close. They've been trading ends, and
yeah, we were able to watch it from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. 16-17 for Saskatchewan A after 16 ends.
Yeah, it's a nail biter.
Good shot for Clarice. Oh no. Wait a minute. Where'd it go? It's Patty's. Oh, there's her ball. I think the other big game over there is the Ontario A4s playing, they're also playing Saskatchewan.
I believe it's 18-6.
Yeah, 18-6 after 15 ends, so I guess Ontario has that.
I know that Gord Legacy and Martin Foxhall and the Ontario squad have been playing extremely well in that game, making a lot of conversion shots and adding points.
Let's have a good rink.
Thank you, sir. Good 2 seconds.
Yeah.
15 seconds of fame.
Well, Jake's back. Little break there.
Yeah, just a quick break. Looks like Patty's really stepped up here, locked one on, and getting 2 back balls.
Yeah, Daryl was just saying that this game is probably who makes the first mistake. Who first to give up a big end.
Yeah, we haven't really seen many big ends. I think 3 is probably the biggest, maybe 4. Shirley's hoping for it to get all the way back, and it just doesn't quite get there.
Gives her some options.
Mm-hmm. Patty's still sticking with that non-ditch side. It seems to be working pretty well for her. This looks like a pretty good bowl coming in here now. That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah. Very tough shot for Shirley now.
Mm-hmm. It's not a very big target right now.
No.
Definitely want to change that up, but again, as you were mentioning earlier, without a back bowl.
Well, even trying to hit it, that would be hard to hit the way it's lined up too.
Mm-hmm.
So no position, no wingers right now. So what do? Fatten the head? Try to get yourself a winger in there? Or cover the back?
I think I'd probably just try to draw in there. You might even be able to just roll that shot pull out one roll and flop in for one.
Yeah, she plays her forehand.
Yeah, if she plays her forehand and just draws around.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in this position. This is tough. She hit that. It looked like it was great weight to come in nice and close.
That's really frustrating at this stage in the game to be crashing on a short bowl. Every bowl is needed. What do you do if you're lean in the situation? You've got two in the head, you've got two back bowls, you don't want to make that target any bigger.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Well, I would try to find which one's the third bowl. So the third bowl's over on the
probably on the left there, I think.
Left.
Yeah.
So I would try to reach that bowl and get it counting 3. I don't need to be right on the jack or even close to the head, but beat that bowl.
Don't need to be near the head. Eesh.
It's still pretty good though.
That's a pretty good place to be, but that was awfully dangerous. Yeah, I think he definitely just needs to draw in close to try to cut things down.
Now she does.
You cannot afford to be giving up another 3 here this end. I'm not sure why she's... Yeah, and Clarice is calling her on that hand too, and I definitely would be playing the other hand, personally.
Less likely to crash something.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be more wide open, and there's a chance you can't even get shot out of it. Getting shot on this hand is going to be much more difficult.
Agreed.
You could rest on the 2 blue bowls and at least get third shot. On the other hand, this hand you have to be very precise. Well, that will work. That's
second shot, third shot.
Third shot, yeah. Now I wouldn't mind playing that hand.
Oh, that was quick, Lena.
Yeah, Lena's very quick on that. I think she was just trying to throw a guard.
She doesn't need to.
Didn't come back quite enough to get in Shirley's way.
That's a totally wasted bowl. I would have just followed Shirley in, maybe. I do the blocks. I mean, I watch like the likes of Steve McCarahan do the blocks, and usually you save your blocks for almost your last bowl or second to last bowl when there is a clear ability to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only time. Lena might have been too quick on this.
I can't remember who it was we were watching earlier this week, but I saw one of the skips was calling for advice to throw a block on a second bowl.
Yeah.
That just blew me away.
Of a triples game?
Yeah, I think it was a triples game.
That's silly.
Yeah, there's still so many bowls to come. Anything could change. That block is not going to be useful
You can
later
come
on.
around most blocks.
Mm-hmm. Shirley has switched her hand here and is playing a little more weight, a little more aggressively into it.
I like this. Oh, okay.
Too wide.
Yeah, she's got another bowl she can use. She wasn't too far off.
I like how she played weight enough to keep her bowl on the green, though. So that isn't a totally wasted bowl if she would have missed it all and went in the ditch.
That's not bad. It forces, definitely forcing Shirley to run it.
This could be the new TSN turning point, if you will.
I don't know if Lena's third shot though at the top.
This would make a huge difference being up.
This is all she's also. Shirley's only got one bowl in the head. She hits this one. She could be. Oh no!
She crashed
the
in
guard
front.
came into play. I don't think so though. I think she just missed her line.
Yeah, I think that would have been well narrow if
Yeah.
that guard hadn't been there. But
Yeah.
big opportunity here for Lena. I don't know if she's lying 2 or 3 right now, but if she can draw in with her last one here, you can have a sizable lead with 2 ends to go. We'll see if she can draw with her 4th bowl. And this could be in the area. This looks very close. If that bowl hadn't been there, I think that would have been jack high. That's a pretty good effort from her last bowl. Can't complain with that too much. So Clarissa's taken out 1, 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if she measures from here. Yeah, Patty's favoring Nova Scotia, so Clarissa will get down and measure. And no, I think that's just 2. To Nova Scotia. It's a 15-12, 3-point game, 2 to go. Was quite weird when I was in the clubhouse 5 minutes ago. I could hear Daryl talking on the screen and could see the game up here on the board. It's really weird to be on the other end of what we're producing rather than actually being back here behind the screens.
It's probably good to listen to yourself, see how you do.
That's just it. At some point I'm going to have to go back and look through all the tapes and see what's what. Looking over on
Okay, what's going on here?
deck
Yeah.
2, it's 18-16 Saskatchewan. Men's pairs up 2 over Ontario. Last bowl to come.
Yeah, and I think Saskatchewan's got shot.
Yeah, Saskatchewan has shot, and I don't think he liked it. No, Dave just missed. So I believe that's another
Chip that.
win for the Saskatchewan boys. So that'll give them sole possession of first place, I believe. Pretty crucial start to this end here, as this will really dictate how the game's going to finish, and Patty has a pretty good start there.
Good ball.
It's a pretty good opening bowl.
Shirley's going to have to be looking at ways of generating more than a point, although a point would be good, but try to get more.
It's interesting that they're both playing this hand here now, as I know earlier in the game they were both fighting on the other hand. Alex Scott just stopped himself from cutting in front of some rinks. That's one of the first players I've seen actually stop and turn around and say, no, don't want to be disturbing them while they're playing. That looks well inside.
Here's the pressure. The pressure's on now for new bowlers, you know. Oh, if you're, like I say, I don't know Patty. I don't think I've seen her here before. So should try to just finish it off. Continue playing the way you've been playing.
And that's a good bowl there from Clarice.
Don't change hands. That's
No?
good.
Yeah. Patty's not changing hands either, which is good. The key here is, if you're Manitoba, to realize you don't need to get 3 here all at once. You just need to score 1 or 2 to give yourself a chance coming home. So there's not a whole lot of pressure on you yet. You definitely do need to count, but you don't need to count a handful. It'd be nice, but... And if you're Nova Scotia, beautiful shot there from Patty.
Very good.
You definitely want to count here if you're Nova Scotia, because having a 4-point lead going home is a very comfortable position to be in.
Especially in a game that has not given up more than 3s and 4s.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mostly 1s and 2s. Those bowls are not helping her partner.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
So we'll see if Patty can throw the exact same bowl and just come inside of Clarice's there onto the jack again.
She's asking for the same, right? I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it now at this point.
Anywhere past the jack I think would be a good spot.
Yeah, and that's not bad.
That's
okay.
Not terrible.
It's in the count.
Again here now, if you're Clarice, you definitely need to be reaching.
Yeah.
Anything past is probably a pretty good bowl.
Yeah, because then she ends up at the back, and then it can maybe help Shirley, but...
She's definitely reaching on this. That is not short. Got the jack and just chipped it side.
Oh.
But that at least gave her some position here, so now that gives Shirley something to work with.
Still, it's pretty tough. You're down 3.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunate. If I'm Lena, I'm probably looking to put a back pull in there too.
Oh yeah.
Get ready.
So make sure you take it wide enough to go to the back.
I won't name any names then, but good question for tweeting. How many clubs are watching the game at the clubhouse, especially on the weekend coming? I don't know how many are watching at the clubhouse, aside from they have it on at the club here at Juan de Fuca, but I don't know how many other clubs are watching. That's a great question. And if you're watching at your clubhouse or at your local club, send us a tweet or a message on Facebook. It'd be great to hear if you are.
Okay, so not a fun position for Shirley right now.
Definitely not, but this is definitely...
It's not even like you have to run it to just count it down and get rid of some bowls. You have to score.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure she's been in this position many times before, though. She's a very experienced player. And she does have a back bowl to work with.
I don't think drawing it is not going to do her any good. So you start hitting it. You got 4 bowls to do it. Yeah, she's not short.
Not short on this. Inside, though. Good thing she's got 3 more.
Make the adjustment.
But, again, if you're Lena, I'm still probably looking to put in a back bowl rather than build that head.
Yeah.
And I think that'll do it. Yep, that'll do it. That's a pretty good place to be.
Yep.
Anything past is good. Now for Shirley, I wonder if there's a way you can kill it. I'm not sure how things are lined up there, but...
I don't know.
I'm not sure if it's really enough weight to actually kill it, but it's definitely enough to make a difference. And I think that might have just backed up a little bit on her. She was chasing it down for a bit, and then her reaction halfway down, she was like, oh no. And Lena's just making that head much tighter there. Well, I
Yeah, she might as well now. She has the ones at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Put the pressure on. I don't think it's an easy kill.
No. she's up the weight a little bit here, and just outside. And Lena has really found her draw game here, holy smokes.
Just piling it in.
Shirley's going to come down and take a look, and
I don't think she's going to be able to do very much.
you're going to really need to smash it. I'm not sure if you can hit it at a perfect angle to get it right back to one of Manitoba's back bowls there. That is definitely not a good place to be right now for Manitoba.
No.
If you're Nova Scotia, you're just holding your breath and waiting, as Shirley has the last bowl of the end here. So Lena and Patty have done all that they can do.
Yeah.
Now they just have to sit and wait and see if they'll have a very sizable lead going home, or if Shirley can make a difference. Shirley's really thinking this through here.
Yeah, well, I think she's got to throw. She's got to try to kill it.
I'm just heading off there now.
No, hey, hon, excuse me.
And she's wide on that.
Oh.
So that'll be 2, 3, 4 for Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So that makes it 19-12. 7-point game, still technically possible. But if you're Nova Scotia, you got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, just tried. They played that in very nicely. Nova Scotia. Yeah, too bad it was such a good close game, and it just one bad end.
Mm-hmm. That was the
Yeah, there's your mistake, I guess.
yeah,
right?
yeah, that was the biggest end of the game, really.
Yeah, it's not a nice feeling as a lead
No,
when you
no.
been playing so well the whole time, and then you mess up on the last second to last. And Lena took full advantage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now you just have to be careful of big pockets if you're Nova Scotia. You don't want to give them a chance for 7. We
Don't even care if you're shot, right?
well, not really. You just want to make sure there's no chance for them to get 7 or 8. That's definitely not the way you want to start an end. The very first game that was streamed here this week, we saw a team that was Nova Scotia Triples, men's triples, was down 7 going home and got an 8. So anything is possible, and you definitely don't want to.
That doesn't happen a lot.
No, it does not. On the rank 1 of DDEC, Ontario B men's pairs up 18-11 over Quebec. Further on down, Manitoba A women's 4s up 12-9 over Nova Scotia.
Yeah, they've been battling back though, Nova Scotia, on that team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it might be running out of ends.
Mm-hmm. Looking down on rink 3, that looks like 15-10 for BC over Alberta women's pairs. And 17-9 Saskatchewan over Ontario women's pairs as well, I believe.
Yeah, that's Harriet. She'll be happy
Mhm.
with that. I think had a slow start, but I think they're doing better now.
Very loose end here, as
Doesn't matter. Just match bowls now.
Shirley's calling for Clarice to be past the head here. She's got 2 that are behind, looking to make a 3rd one behind. See if you can build a pocket. And Clarice is coming up short. And that's going to be very difficult to score 7 or 8. So, as this game is starting to wind down, that's a good bowl there from Patty. We'll be back again this afternoon with a men's pairs match. I think it's Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but double check the schedule and look for rink A1, and that'll tell you who we're streaming. And that'll be the last game for the day, and then there's another round tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and then any tiebreakers after that. With finals on Saturday, men at 9, women at 10.
Yeah, that's a different format.
It is. It is.
Staggering them.
Would have been a little more ideal to have enough separation between so that way we could stream both, but unfortunately we couldn't make that happen. So we'll likely end up streaming a quicker men's match and then quickly hop over to a women's match after that, since the men start at 9 and the women at 10.
So now just throwing bowls, so hopefully get some differential, get some points anyway.
Yeah, plus minus is still useful. Want to minimize that if you can, or maximize it depending on which position you're in. Beautiful day here in Victoria, British Columbia, here on the island at the Juan de Fuca Lawn Bowling Club. If you are in the area, come on down and catch some brilliant action. There's 30 rinks that you can watch, 60 games each round, so you can take your pick.
Oh, is it that many, yeah?
Yeah, 180 players.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
It's kind of nice, too, that everybody's here in the same venue.
It is really nice when we can make that happen, so everybody's here. You can really see a team camaraderie or provincial camaraderie, I suppose.
But it's not always feasible. It's hard. It's a very hard event to hold when 180 people.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, nice shot.
Good shot there from Shirley.
Yeah.
Speaking of provincial camaraderie, I can see on the sidelines here there are a few Nova Scotia players that are watching this game finish as they're there to support their team. And this game is slowly winding down to its end here. It looks like that's 2 for Manitoba right now. Just a pretty wide open draw here for Shirley to try to get 3. That's what Clarice is calling her on.
She just has to beat that side bowl.
Don't have to beat it by much. And there's not very many games left going on. There's only one on the deck beside us of men's pairs, and they're playing the last end between Ontario and Quebec. Ontario's up 18-11. On the C deck, all the games are done. On the B deck, there's 2 games left going on, but so far away I can't tell you the scores. And on this deck, this is the last end for this game, and there's 2 more going on. Women's pairs BCB's up 15-12 over Alberta, women's pairs, and then women's fours, Manitoba's up 13-9 over Nova Scotia, and they're playing their last end too.
Yeah, Nova Scotia's not on the CAT, so might not be able to score any points.
As always, check out bullscanada.com for standings, results. Look for the championship tab, and then scroll down to Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships, and you'll be able to find the draw, results, standings. And they're updated relatively quickly after all the games are completed for each round. So I think that was just one for Manitoba, maybe two.
They're also quick to take down the scores.
Yeah. Very quick to change those. So I think that might have been two for Manitoba, which would make it 19-14 if that is the case. Regardless, Nova Scotia got the win and solidified their place at first in their pool with another couple rounds left to go. We'll see if anything changes there. Thanks for commentating with me today, Laura.
All right, thanks for having me.
And we'll be back again at 1:30 p.m. local time.
Thank you, and have a good day.